all right. Let's go. All right. I suppose you guys should be hearing me now correctly. And just tell me if I'm not loud enough. So, hello. I see you guys already over 50 people. Oh, more than this actually. Hello. Yeah. So you should be hearing me. Just tell me if my sound is just a little too faint or too loud. I'm trying not to shout in my microphone, but yeah, my voice will fade before the end of the stream anyway. So yeah. So what is this stream about? So first of all, just so you remember, hello. My name is William, aka DocFX. Sometimes on the internet, whatever you want to call me, both are fine. You might know me from long ago, as I had been in charge of Dual Commander along with a whole team of people for about 12 years. And I believe it's been my 12 years right now, because I think I joined exactly on March 2014. So yeah, it's been a long time actually. I wouldn't have believed it was such a long time ago. So today, as you know, we're going to go through a new game or changes in the game that I want to review with you. So depending on how long you have ahead of you, I'm not going to waste your time, because the first thing I'm going to do for this stream is give you the quick start explanations. In short, if you got only a few minutes, we should be done with like 10 minutes, okay? But if you are really like interested in how the game works deeply and you want to know everything right now, you can stay a little more. So we're going to have a little more talk and conversation about how AeonShift works really. And for the most avid gamers out there, and if you're interested into how we build the game, that's going to be an even longer talk, but that's going to be a very advanced talk for the people who like the game. And finally, for the people who would still be alive, I think we will have time for questions and answer, but I believe most of them will be explained in the presentation that you're gonna see. So if you got any questions, I will look at the Twitch chat. For the record, you need to be a follower for 10 minutes more, because I had a bot raid most of the time on Twitch, so I had to set this precaution. If you have questions, I will also, unless I forget about everything else, that I'm going to also look at the Discord. If you got any questions that I haven't answered already or need to answer already, I will maybe take a look if there are questions on Discord as well. All right, so if you have no questions, that's perfect. But again, the slides are pretty long and self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna waste your time furthermore. So today I'm presenting you something new stuff that is called AeonShift. And for those of you who might not speak English, it means you are changing from an era to another. The Eons, by the way, is a geological era on Earth. We are, I think, in the fourth era right now, in the fourth Eon. That is related to how Earth evolved since its beginning. So yeah, the principle here is good, and the game is pretty much ready to play. But I want you to remember, this is all a beta test, all right? So what you need to think is that everything that I'm going to show you has been thought, tested, approved. But the thing is, nobody's perfect. So we should have some updates and changes when the time comes. So just be kind to us, to everyone among the team and us, because it's going to be like a huge change. So what is AeonShift? The quick start that I want to give you, that is basically what is changing. So if you want to look at the changes, like the one-on-one on how to play AeonShift. So welcome to AeonShift. This is pretty simple. So Dual Commander, as you know it, becomes AeonShift Dual Commander. That's pretty easy to understand. That's a name change, whatever you want. The game now becomes much more accessible. We're going to talk about that, don't worry. And the game also becomes more strategic and challenging to you, all right? By the way, before I go further, I tried to write as many things in the slide as I could for the people who would have hearing impairment. So if my voice or my English is not perfect to you, the subtitles might not be generated correctly. And in this case, at least you get to read the slides, so it's more accessible, right? And the contrast should be accessible as well. So what are the changes that we're going through today? So the first changes is the following. The individually banned and restricted list is removed. Let me read that again. The individually banned and restricted list is removed. Which means if you are used to playing Commander, there's something you should be used to since 2007 when it was created, next to EDH actually, and how all the Magic the Gathering formats work. I mean, all the official Magic the Gathering formats work. They all have either banned cards or restricted cards. Restricted meaning you can only use less than the maximum number that the format allows you. So this is wiped out, which means all the cards that were once upon a time individually banned or restricted, or both, depending on the time and the year you're speaking about, because some have been one or the other, this is just no more. The second thing is that, as a consequence, all the banned cards and the restricted cards are now legal. Yes, that goes from Deadpool to Black Lotus, going through Time Warp, through whatever you're thinking about right now, and you should be panicking, but don't panic. Because the cards that are legal in AeonShift right now are pretty simple to remember. They are either legal in Vintage, which is about 30,000 and more cards, or restricted in Vintage. See, like the Power 9 or stuff like that. And also the card Charizard, because why not? So all of these cards should be something like 30,600, something like that. I didn't count because it changes every day with the new releases, but it's about that. So in other words, if you want to sum up what is legal in Dual Commander, it's about the same as Singleton Vintage with Charizard. That's it. So it's pretty easy to remember, right? That's not a great change, but it's pretty easy to remember. And what changes now is because these cards are legal and we know everything would be busted with them, without them, and the rest, we're going to use a point system for deck legality, which is now you get to know if you can play a deck, not by looking at the cards one by one, but at looking at the deck in its whole. So the legality now is not related to the cards themselves, not only, but to the deck themselves, most of the time. Okay, so how does that work? It's super easy to understand. And hello, by the way, the chat. You get a commander, right? This is your commander. Let's say we take Ruhan of the Fomori. By the way, if you understand why I chose this commander, love to you, and shouts out to you, Sheldon. Imagine you're taking Ruhan of the Fomori as a commander. I'll not go into the details, but this one gives you 130 points to build. So that means you can spend 130 points, Aeon points, what you call it to be, for your build. So then you're going to take a lot of cards and like, whoa, I'm going to build, I'm going to make my commander deck, and boom. But these cards might be worth 0 or more points. So what you need to care of is you need to look at how many points the sum gives. So your points should be less than the points that you can build, and also superior to 0. So take it or leave it like the way you want. If you want to think as a budget that you are spending, it's easier to remember, or points that go down to 0 when building one by one, depending on what you are doing, if you are considering a whole list already done or building a new one, okay? And as long as your total points are less than the number, good luck, your deck is legal. That's pretty easy to remember, right? You take a commander, you're gonna tell you how, don't worry about that. The points will be told to you. You got to spend your points and your final deck is legal. That's it. And if it's not legal, then either you change your commander, that's very hard, or you just change the cards in your deck until it's legal again, right? So before that, you used to remove, like for instance, Mana Drain in Ruhan because it was banned. Now it's legal, but maybe Mana Drain is not going to be 0 points as an inclusion in your deck. So if you keep adding cards just like Mana Drain or cards that have points, at some point you're going to overflow your budget and your deck is not legal. It's pretty easy to remember, right? Okay, so by the way, chat, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask them in the chat. We'll take them at the end, all right? Don't worry about your questions being discarded. I will read them in the end if you have some. So the point system now. The point system works as follows. Your commander defines how many points you can spend, and you will have a tool to tell you how your commander can be found and how you can understand how your points are defined. Because also it's a list, and for the record, yes, there are about from what I remember, almost 3,000 possible commanders in Magic the Gathering. So yeah, it's a pretty long list. So okay, then you build your deck and you add the cards. But don't worry, buddies, most of the cards are worth 0 points, which means about 97% of the cards so far are worth 0 points. It's great news, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you already know which ones are gonna have points. And some cards, very little of them, are ranked with more than 0 points. Could be 1, could be more, could be a lot. And your deck is legal as long, as I said, as you don't spend more points than you are allowed to. I think, yeah, this is pretty easy to remember, right? So when we built this in mind, we built this with an idea that was we need to build something more strategic and competitive. So the question is, what makes Magic strategic and complex, right? Choices. Choices in building, choices in playing, and sometimes choices in choosing a deck. All of this is how things are strategic and challenging when you play Magic the Gathering. If you don't make choices, then you probably don't want to play the game. So if you have a ban card, you know it's going to be auto-excluded, so you don't have a choice, right? You don't even know now if you can play a ban card of any card, any kind, you know. So on the opposite of the spectrum, if you have a staple card, a card that is just played by everyone, I could give you some examples. You play White. I was using Ruhan of the Formery, right? You play White. Can I play White without adding Source to Plowshares? We all know it's going to be almost automatically included, right? I was playing Red too. Do you think I was going to like build a Ruhan of the Formery deck without including Lightning Bolt? I don't think so. And the problem is, it's not just about those two cards, it's about a lot more that have become staples. So when you have staple cards that are just better than any other cards, that are just super good, then they're auto-included and you don't have a choice anymore, right? So the thing is, somewhere in between lies a place called card ranking, which means giving points, relative value, and danger of inclusivity, something of a card. So then you got choices, right? So it's pretty easy to understand why we're doing so. So because we change those rules, we have to change a couple other rules. So the first of these rules is the partner threes rule is removed, which means what you used to playing with dual commander using a partner freeze, which means your second partner, your second partner ability card, to be correct, cannot be played for the rest of the game once you play the first one. This is vanished and removed definitely. The second one is that the commander swap rule is suspended. We like, if not love, this rule, but as you can understand, with points, this is really harder to implement. So the best thing we thought would be just to remove this card. And the first rule that you're going to witness tonight as well is that we are proxy friendly. In other words, we recommend for everyone, for players, for TOs, allowing proxies. And if you're playing with your friends, you decide with your friends. It's kind of a rule 0 proxy, think about that. And if you're playing on a tournament, the tournament organizers get to choose, which means you can have tournaments organized without proxies, with some proxies, with an infinite amount of proxies, or it's up to you, okay? So just so you know now how to find and understand all that, the main website is now at play.eonshift.games. Play AeonShift Games. It's pretty easy to remember, and we have a calculator that's going to help you a lot. That is going to be at points.eonshift.games. Easy, right? Another thing that I'm going to do right now is going to tell you that the AeonShift team will remain at our discretion. I won't go in details here, but later on. But yeah, basically, if you think of AeonShift, just think of me. The rest of the team will be at my discretion. And this is the same thing for our methodology and operations, how we function, and decisions we've made. Because yeah, if you have not been following Dual Commander for a while, this costed us a lot of energy over the last months. So when does it start? The answer is, well, right now. So what I'm gonna do now, your screen is not gonna move, but I'm just going to be publishing the sites right now. So, all right, should be done. So all of the websites, let me just finish the last one. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, all right, back to business. So all of the websites are live right now, and the good old mtgdc.info will survive, but it won't be used a lot anymore. But it's been updated to reflect the current changes that I talked to you about. And by the way, of course, the legacy Dual Commander rules can be found at dualcommander.org. All right, so one last thing before we leave. When are we going to change the rules for these games in the future? Well, we got announcement schedules like we used to, so you guys don't get lost. It's gonna be once every 2 months. The exact methodology for dates is not really determined right now because it's in beta test, okay? But for launch, because we know nothing's perfect the first time and point systems are really hard to get correctly the first time, we will be exceptionally publishing an announcement every month. So the next one should be on April 6th. It's written on the website, but it should be on April 6th. We still have the possibility for emergency point updates, but only for critical new cards, which is more than likely improbable. And also, don't worry about the new cards, they have default points. So the cards that become legal for the first time after announcements have those default points, which means any card that is going to be like announced by Wizards of the Coast or any streamer, any person, any Magic website in the days to come for the next Strixhaven set or the next Marvel set. I don't know anything about them. We don't, but when it will be announced, whatever, as soon as it is part of a database, it will have default points before we get to manually rank them. It's pretty easy. So this is going to be explained further in this presentation, but this is a fail-safe, so you guys get to play the new cards, but not to abuse the new cards. So there's something at an in-between. All right, so remember, you go to play.eonshift.games, and that's all you need to do because everything is explained there. Remember, it's all a beta test phase, so yeah. There's going to be a lot more and feedback to get and to do, but it's fine. And that's it. If you are in a hurry, if you need to go now, if you just were barely interested, you can leave. But if you're really interested in understanding how AeonShift work with details, now is going to be the time. So I'm making a small pause if any one of you has questions right now regarding this. Can you just explain back the new card point system? You missed, oh, you were not here. There will be a replay, by the way. Don't worry, I will record a clean video of this, and this raw replay will be available on YouTube probably. All right, and if not, I will just record it once again. So the website is on the main website on mtgdc.info. It's on the main page. It's on everyone now. Right now, as we're talking, So I can put the points, but if you look at the points, you will be lost in the presentation, though I'm gonna put the link. Wait, hold a second. All right, it's gonna be this. So the changes are live as well, like I said, yes, and the point system, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna go back on you for Cedric 57200, so because I thought you missed it, but the point system here is really easy to understand, and let me show you again. So one last time, and then I move on to the next slides because we got lots of stuff to see. You choose a commander. The calculator, the website, will tell you how many points you have to build. You add the cards. The cards are worth 0 or more points. You need to not consume more points than you have, and your deck is legal. All right, that answers your question. Question, just to be sure, no ban cards or even anti-cards. This is what I'm going to answer in the advanced slides. Short answer before you are eating your fingers. No, like I said in the first slide, it's only the individually banned and restricted cards, and those were structurally banned. So they will be legal in something that we call a timeline that is not the timeline that you are interested in. So there is one timeline where 100% of the Magic cards are legal, but you don't really care about it. What you care is called the Eternal Timeline, which is basically, like I said, Vintage, Singleton plus Sherazade. The point system and the legality of decks is going to be addressed in the next slides. So yeah. The default slide. This is going to be addressed also in the next points. I'm going to talk about this. So yes, you are worried about the this part here. The cards have a default value, even if we don't know about them. So if a card is in the database, like pretty usually it's spoiled on one website or something, then we have to make sure that the card is real. Then it becomes added on Wizards of the Coast main website, which is usually when it's really certain that the card is not a fake. And then there's the release day, and on release day the cards become legal, and when they are legal, they can be legal after the last announcement, in which case they have default points, which means the system knows that they exist, but we haven't ranked the cards yet. That's how it works. All right, I'm gonna move on because we got lots of stuff to do. So I got lots of tea with me to hand up to the end of the evening, because I gotta wake up tomorrow morning as well. So if you're still here, then you're gonna be worried about a couple more advanced stuff about AeonShift. So how does it work in details? So first of all, you need to understand where the game came from. And the game came from some statements, some empirical things that we've seen. So first of all, the idea of deck-wise regulation, which is basically what AeonShift is about, appeared among the old Dual Commander committee years ago. It's something that we have had as a discussion, like I cannot remember when the first time was, and I think none of us remembers when it was, because it's an idea that is way older than us, actually. So the first prototype was built internally between April and May 2024, and it was just put on the side. And if you remember, some of you might have seen my talk from 2025, actually included lots of possible directions for fixing, changing the game rules, including deck-wise legalities, including most of the things that you see, but I think I addressed about 60, 70 different possible changes for the rules. And after the events of October last year, we decided to unearth the project, because why not? Now was probably the time to move on. And March 3, which is today, today for me in France right now, here we are. So if you want to understand one of the core problematic of that is that the game is getting solved, and all the games that you play are more or less solved or being solved by the players playing it. So this graph is pretty easy to understand, right? I'm not gonna go into lots of graphs and statistics. So just so you know, there's just like 6 or 7 of them maximum. So it's not a long presentation that I'm going to tell you with thousands of slides, okay? We are actually a quarter of the slides done. So this is a special graph. I took all the cards that have been played once every year on Magic Top 8, which means if one card is included once in MTG Top 8, it appears in this graph. Which means if it does not, in the gray bar, it has never ever been played or seen. And just remember, when you're reaching like here 21.81%, it means that the last one of them were included maybe once in one deck. For the record, in 2025, Magic Top 8, MTG Top 8 had 11,000 decks reported in Euro Commander. And 11,000 decks, when 11,000 decks can only barely show one copy of a card, it's not a good sign, all right? So what does that mean? It means that every game is a permanent opposition between two forces. The first one is the richness and the possibilities that you offer with your rule. I got a webcam. I'll use my webcam in the end, by the way, buddy. But yeah, I believe it's more interesting that you look at the slides than my ugly face. Yeah. And the other force that is opposing the other way around is how the players are hacking or solving it. I mean, you can think of it the way you want, like everyone knows, for instance, if you play chess, you know the names of the first plays or the first moves that you do with chess. They all have the names of the players or classic outs. If you, I don't know if you've been playing something popular like Counter-Strike, for instance, you know what rush B, rush A, point B is. You know, every game has its solving strategy, how to play, how to win, which heroes, characters to take, and everything else. So pretty soon, the more people play your game and the more competition or challenge there is, the more people understand how to actually determine what is better as a strategy in your game than what is not. And that is even though the combinations of a 100 card deck are about 10 to the power of 157. If you are using this with shuffling, it's even larger, which is more than the number of atoms in the universe. And the number of games is more than all of this, even with 2 players. So it seems like it's rich, but yet the game always moves towards solving and stagnation, okay? So remember, you can ask questions in the chat. I will take them in the end, but it's okay. I will just re-roll the chat up. So don't worry if I don't answer you now. This is a graph you have seen me present to you last year and the year before as well. It's a pretty easy to understand graph. I went to a Magic Top 8 again, and I took for Vintage Legacy, Modern, CDHDC, in 2024 and 2025, 2024 is dashed and 2025 is continuous line. I just looked at the position, the presence, the rate of presence, how many percent of the deck the card is included of the 1st, 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th position, etc. So what you see here is that when this graph has all the curves going up, the game is being resolved, is being solved. Because don't forget, 100 cards, if all the 100 cards are played 100% of the time, it just means there is just one deck and it's done. Okay? So the game solving means when it comes to Magic the Gathering, we have over 31,000 unique prints on paper right now. Only a fraction see play at least once, which means a very small fraction, even with limited, can actually be played or considered. And only a fraction of that fractions remains selected, which means, like I said, if you just want to look at what is played like more than 5% of the time in Euro Commander, you just got only a couple hundred cards out of 30,000, which is not a lot. And the thing we usually call power creep, which I demonstrated in my 2023-2024 talks for the committee before, this erases more cards and faster, which means it's not that the cards just get better than the previous one, they also get better than most of the previous ones, faster than ever, every time a new set is out. And the average modern deck, if you look at Magic Topet right now, is about 50% Modern Horizons card, for instance. And this gives you a clue that something might be wrong. But it's not just Modern. Modern is just the emblem of it. All the formats are affected, except, of course, Standard, because Standard is affected by Standard. So that's normal, right? I showed you this complex graph. Don't worry, guys, it's the most complex graph I'm going to show you tonight, and it's pretty easy to understand. The same graph that I've done, but this time I have tracked the position of the 1st, 5th, 10th, 15th most played cards on MTG Top 8 for every year since Magic Top 8 started recorded Dual Commander decks, and I've put this on a line, which means, let me just explain that to you again. When all the curves here are going down, the game becomes more diverse. When all the curves are going up, the game becomes less diverse. And between each of the curves here, there is an exponentially growing number of cards. You see, this is not just regular. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 5, 10, 15, 50, 17, 100, 200, 350, 1000. So this means that the bottom here is not really moving, but at this point here, the cards are going down, and at this point, all the cards are going up. By the way, you're going to ask me why 2025 is going down that much. The answer is mostly Force of Will, Blood Moon, and Dark Ritual. This is enough because all these cards were among the top 23 to 30 something played most cards. So this just made a little bump to the bottom. So you see, if you wanted more diversity, you have to ban the cards, but if you ban the cards that is here, it's just going to make all these curves go down, and if you ban the cards not below, all the curves below it are just going up. So in the end, the vast majority of the game is being less diverse. Okay, so this was a complex graph. I'm just going to move on. So what about Dual Commander now? When it comes to Dual Commander, the average Dual Commander now, maybe you've seen that, uses the same recurring shells, notably shells that are like mono red, blue base, like when you play blue, you know you're going to include Mana Leak, you know you're going to include Counterspell, Wash Away. It's going to be the same building over and over. In other terms, you are told that you have 100 cards, but you get to decide for, what, 5 to 10 of them on the average deck. And this is worth if you go to 4 or 5 color decks where the mana bases are just the same. And we got new stuff that emerges now, which I call the 4-5 color soup, because you know what I'm talking about, like Cosmic Spider-Man, and before that Ezio, and before that Nagila, whatever you want it to be. We've had these as a recurring problem now, because if you look at these decks, they're not really decks, they are a pile of the best card that fits in one slot. So in the end, it's just not really inventive and creative. You just are lucky enough to play with singletons, so you have to play different cards. Otherwise, there will be even less diversity. So what changes in that? Well, the answer, you know about the answer, only new cards. So only what is new changes, or the game becomes even solved faster. And actually, if you look at what changed on Magic Top 8, for instance, over the last 2 or 3 years, anything that made change is only related to the new prints. So better not stop. And right now, we are super close to vintage singleton for real, which means we are very, very close to competing with vintage decks. And if you are wondering what we play right now, we play this. And this is a graph that shows you, to build this graph, I've taken all the cards played on Magic Top 8 more than 1% of the time, and I piled the sum of all the presence rates, which means when a card is added 5%, another card is added 3%, that makes 8% if they were first printed the same year. So when you look at this, you have that graph, which means this is showing you the first year, the year of the first print for each card we play, multiply and weighted by its presence. So what I think you understand in this graph is you see most of the cards from Alpha, which is, of course, the 9 original dual lands. I mean, it's 1993, so Beta is included as well. Counterspell, Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolt. Then you got the Onslaught fetch lands here, the Zendikar fetch lands plus Spell Pierce here. And then you got Modern Horizons 2, and Modern Horizons 3. But not only. You also have Duskmourn, you also have Streets of New Capenna here, you also have all these sets. And look at it, right now, the average year of the last 5 is strictly superior to any other year of Magic the Gathering, and it has crushed Alpha right now for the first time 3 times. Last year, Alpha was the second most played set. 2 years ago, it was the first played set, equal with Modern Horizons 2, and now it's just dead. So, no, by the way, bro, I'm not gonna use my camera right now because I need the full screen, and some numbers and data might be hard to read, especially if you're on mobile, so I'm not gonna use my camera right now. You'll see my head in the end, okay? I know you want to see my face, but that's not really the most interesting things tonight. So, marketing-driven products. Marketing has just won over game design, exploration, and richness. I mean, Magic is 33 years old now. It's hard to design for 33. I gotta say that to the design team and the R&D team. Shouts out to you guys, because creating all that universe when not using Universe and Beyond, and the abilities, the techniques, the mechanics, the planes and stuff, it's crazy. 31,000 cards unique, that's amazing. So yeah, shouts out to the Magic teams. But yet, the marketing predominance now is visible across all Magic formats, from Vintage to Standard or on digital, like Magic Arena. So this is also visible in EDH Commander more than it is in Dual Commander, actually. But the most progressing ways of playing Magic right now, you might be surprised, are not from Wizards of the Coast. They are community driven. Like, the kitchen table is still crazy, the best and number one way to play Magic in the world. But this is not formal, right? What is formal? Well, Commander is. Commander and CEDH now, they just rule the world. Within 10 years, I think it became predominant and the best and top way to play Magic the Gathering. Don't worry, bro. I know that the GitHub project is closed yet, by the way. So yeah, Commander is just ruling over everything else right now. And guess what? For the first time in history, Pauper has seen more reports on Magic Top 8 than any other format for 1 week. And it's not going to be the first one, because it's on the rise. And what other projects are really, really going up and skyrocketing? Well, pre-modern and pre-DH, which is oddly named, should be pre-commander, but whatever. Those things are becoming something for real. So right now, whatever is done by Wizards of the Coast that is not commander is slowly plateauing, or if not, on the decline, for many reasons we're not going to talk about now. But when it comes to Dual Commander, I just want to remind you of this graph. I have updated it just for you right now. So this graph is the number of months old each commander is, and the size of the bubble is how popular and how played it is. This is 33 years of Magic the Gathering history. Looking at you. Should be 5,000 different combinations, but actually 3,000 different commanders, okay, when discarding partners and stuff. And this is what you get. So looking at this right now, what you know is that this doesn't look like a happy face graph. We are completely forgetting the past of Magic the Gathering. So Dual Commander for years have been reaching a dead end. It's not dead yet, it's still playable, it's still fun, but less and less. So what do our 18 years of expertise, out of which 12, as I was saying, while being in charge of the game rules, told us? They told us that Dual Commander is not an exception. It is played with Magic. So Magic changes, hence Dual Commander changes. So the diversity is shrinking in Dual Commander faster than time goes for command zones, which means whatever is busted as a commander just kills everything else much, much faster than just one card lost in the 99-98. The pruning pace of whatever is not to be played ever again, or less played, or less and less, or on the decline, is just never ending, which means we just shouldn't look at just commanders, but all the cards in the deck. And Dual Commander right now means just selecting the best overall Magic cards plus a couple commander-centric builds. In other words, that's just what we build right now. And sometimes both of these, actually. And now, every single turn we play is an immediate threat. You cannot miss a turn in Dual Commander right now because we are at vintage speed. Not completely because we don't have a density of spells of Legacy and Vintage for turn 1, 2, 3, but we're getting seriously close to that. So now, it's crazy to state so, but the game is practically aligned with 10 years old vintage play, which means the average top Dual Commander decks right now could easily beat most, if not all, but most at least, of the 10 years old vintage decks, which wasn't supposed to happen, but it is. Next thing that was a source of invention for us is the financial struggle that players have. So this is simple, it's a graph of the first prints, the new prints for each year. And you can see how many new cards were printed, and you can see there's a turning point somewhere around 2016. And the thing is, when you start playing Dual Commander, because we got more and more players now, you need to both, supposedly, buy the old cards, going towards the past before you started playing, but also cope up with buying the new ones. And as you see, the ponderation, the weight of the new ones is becoming twice, if not 3 times superior to the old ones. In other words, your problem is not finding that effing tropical island which you don't have the money for. Your problem is that you need to keep up with the hundreds of cards, including shipping, that will cost you much more than tropical island, that you're going to waste because in 2 years they will be out-fashioned. That is your problem right now, and it's not just about Dual Commander. This is for everything, but if you play Commander variants, Commander, Dual Commander, CDH, even Oathbreaker, if that still exists, whatever, your problem is the following. This is the number of legendary creature cards. I'm not including Shorika and stuff like that, but it doesn't change the graph. If you look at this, well, just remember, in 2016, we had 51 new legendary creatures every year, and Commander was created 5 years before that. But last year was 484, almost 10 times more, which means the diversity, if anything change, and any commander is getting, on the average, better every 10 cards, is going to be crushing the rest. So we now have about 50 million players on Magic. That's what Wizards is communicating about, and I don't think they're lying for a second on that. So the pressure on getting the latest cards has increased. The reprints have erased the necessity of investing on most of the old cards, which is great, by the way, because some old cards used to cost 50, 100 euros, dollars, whatever you want it to be. But they now cost significantly less because there have been at least 1-2 reprints. Even one reprint as a mythic is sometimes enough. I'm trying to think about Mana Drain, for instance. It was reprinted years ago with Magic 25. What else? I should be thinking about cards, but I'm losing my mind. The sorcery speed vampiric tutor, Imperial Seal. Imperial Seal was thankfully down. It's still expensive, but less expensive than it used to be. So this is what reprints do to your wallet. So it means that less money is spent, but it's not gonna help you enough. It's not going fast enough. And also the number of SKU. So SKU is just meaning a unique product, like a booster with a barcode, a booster box, a collector box, a set box when it used to be the case, whatever a product. The number of products per year went from about 50 for year 1993 to over 1,000, and I believe it's closer to 2,000 now. So every average seller that would get a hand of 100% of Magic products has to scan and add about 1,000 products to a database per year if they were to sell all of them. As a consequence to that, what people have been calling proxies, because there was no other word, have literally invaded all countries. The richest from the richest to the poorest country, regardless of the country's economy. They have invaded all countries, and clearly, if you haven't noticed that, they are winning. So, yeah, what about us now? Where do we stand? Well, we stand in a place we created that game called AeonShift that addresses all that, or at least as much as we can and as best as we can, tries to address all those problems, right? So what do we do? Let's go with the ideas and the core ideas of AeonShift. So first of all, how did we build the game? You need to understand some basic general approach for AeonShift. First of all, we should only use an item if it provides something strategic, like an added strategic value, just not because it's established superior to any other. Like, you shouldn't be told what to play because, yeah, it's better, you see? The general winning metagame should not wait for content novelty to change or become definitive. Then every legal item should be equitably have a chance to be played, which means they're not equal. Some are stronger, but you should consider them the same way when you are building a deck. Then the short-term marketing-driven changes should not erase the interest for persisting players. And last, competition should be equally split among construction choices and gameplay. In other words, don't just net deck. You can, because it's going to be available if people build some lists and share them, but you shouldn't be relying only on net decking. So the games must remain accessible with all the meanings that accessible can have. The tools need to be provided to help players because there is no simple answer to a complex problem of Magic right now, as we saw. And the system must remain balanced between efficiency and complexity. So it's not a power up, it's not a power down, it's a power rebalance. So globally, it's a power down if you only consider the top 15% of the decks, which means they're going to be obliterated by this. But actually, you can use more powerful cards now, but at a great cost. So yes, you can play Black Lotus or Ancestral Recall or Balance, whatever you want it to be. But it's not just about these cards. The problem was to realize we had a completely blasting overpower up with the recent changes in Dual Commander. Actually, with most of the old cards that were printed. So globally, if you take most of the deck lists that you have right now, yes, it's going to be, hopefully, I hope it's going to be a power down. But also, you have to realize not everyone is playing on the Magic the Gathering tournament, and not everyone is playing the most powerful decks. Years ago, I used to have contacts and discussions with people at Wizards, and it was something that is known to players, that is shared, is not secret in internal. 80% of the players worldwide do not go online, do not speak with people, do not go to a tournament. They only go to LGS, buy products, go back home and play with friends or relatives and stuff. So you have to understand, if you think of the people you see online or at a tournament, you will barely see 20% of the people, including pre-releases, which actually are the last bastion for players and casual players. So yeah, it's complex. It's complex, but hopefully it's gonna be a power down, like back to a certain level. But it's not gonna be a strict power down to 0. Like there are cards we will not be able to save. So AeonShift can be applied to any game, like for real, any game. You've been seeing recently Yu-Gi-Oh! The TCG adopted such an ID with close IDs to us in a format they call Genesis. And yeah, so Genesis is a kind of illustration for that. And we could actually rebalance every game. I was speaking with some of my friends recently who's playing One Piece TCG, and he told me, dude, it completely works with One Piece. I don't know, I don't play One Piece, but I trust him. It applies to many, many games. But the first one we're gonna use, and the one truly we only know so far, most of us, is Magic. So let's start with that. How do we implement AeonShift with Magic? So first of all, if you're still here, you're not nose bleeding on complex stuff. So the complex stuff that we start with is what we call the p-value. The p-value is the number of points you're given when you have chosen your format building constraints, which is how many players in a team, how many cards in a deck, do you use sideboards, do you use command zones, whatever. When you have decided what you're going to play, you still have one choice so far, which is standard play for us, but we're going to think about using 2 more, light play and power play. Light play should be just more constraints on the points budget, so the deck should be more nerfed, and power play should be less nerfed. All right, so the standard play right now that we have set is 100 points. Okay, so this is easy to remember because we start with dual commander, 100 cards, 100 points, and this is going to be the case for every format. And if you have a Highlander deck structure, which means single turn, 100 cards, it's pretty easy to remember, right? So also it's a sufficient base granularity for calculations, because of course you could go with more than 100 points to more fine-tuning, but 100 is way more than enough and something we can remember from memory. So how do we do the point rankings? The cards, they have a default points, which is for singleton or quadruples. Singleton is dual commander, quadruples is modern, for instance. All right, so this is the base points they have, and if we have what we call a star format, which is a name format which is distinctive from others like dual commander, then we can overload the values either generally or globally. Like if you use quadruples, this is just the same value for all the cards. But if you use commanders, this is for the 99 or 98, or we can specifically override it. So with that system, we can redo, rewrite, and rebalance any way of playing Magic the Gathering, in addition to the gameplay rules, of course. For commanders, they work like they work the rest of the time, which is whatever you use as a commander works with, like CDH thing is just working the same, including now you see the partner. Okay, so the commander are so far the only modulation of the starting points, your p-value. Okay, so this is why when you choose a commander, not everyone starts with 100 points, because the budget, which is the number of points you can spend, is determined by your p-value and modulated by your commander. So let me go through this. I'm not going to explain it to you. I know it's a couple of slides next, but if you use a commander that was just out, like Lorwyn Eclipsed commander, that is 4 mana value, that doesn't have points on the list, and you have only one commander, is 100 points. If any of these things change, your points will change. So the commanders are subject to 3 factors when determining the budgets. 1, the first print year of the most recent one, which is a bonus. 2nd, the mana value of the cheapest side for each of them, which is a malus. And the number of commanders, the partner abilities since January. If you don't know, by the way, Wizards have been redoing the comprehensive rules in January. So now everything that adds multiple commanders in the command zone is called the partner ability, and they have 5 partner abilities. So the first one is partner, generic partner. The second one, I'm sorry, is partner median dash brackets type. This is exactly how it is explained in the rules. It's partner type, so partner, character select, friends forever, etc. We have partner with, and we also have choose a doctor and the doctor, and backgrounds, and choose a background. All right. So these are the partner abilities. I think I forgot none of them. No, I don't. Okay, so these change the points you can have, and so all eligible commanders can have default points, points in the 99, or points when used as commanders. All right. So I'm just going to give you one simple schema of all that. So you start building a deck, and you got your p-value. This is where you start. All right. This is the number of points you start building with. Then you go and look up to our rules, our website, or simply to the calculator that we're going to talk about. And either your deck is your commander is adding some points because it's a pretty cool commander and it gives you more points, or it gives you less points, which is a shrink in your value. In any case, this is your budget. All right. And then you got your points budget and you spend it. And every time you spend it, you reduce the leftover budget, just if you had money for groceries. And as long as it's superior or equal to 0, your final remaining points, your deck is legal. That's all you have to understand. So the calculator, I was talking about it. It supports Magic the Gathering. It's provided for instant decklist validation and building. I mean, literally, you paste the decklist and less than 1 millisecond later, you got the results. It works for all start formats where we're going to open. It proposes a format selection quiz when we have in the future many different formats to play. It supports 1, 2, and 3 decklists, but you get to only use 1 for now. And it also provides formatted decklist registration, so you just put your decklist, and as soon as it's valid, you get a button to print it, download it as text, CSV, PDF, whatever you want it to be. So you get your deck. And the calculator provides details to help you on construction errors, like the quantities, like too many of the cards, like even stuff like the 7 dwarfs. If you put 8 of them, it will tell you that you can only have 7. It tells you if you don't respect the color identities of your commanders, etc., etc. Or you put something in a sideboard, also having a commander or stuff. It tells you about the budget modulations, your points breakdown, so where you consume your points, the remaining points you have if you want to continue building or change and try to get something more broken. It tells you about your p-value, the m-value, which is the financial constraint we're going to talk about, is coming soon. And the calculator supports copying and pasting sources from Magic Online, from Magic Arena, from Moxfield Plaintext, from Architect, from Tapped Out, and MTG Top 8 export. The decklist must be in English with the exact card name. It will tell you, don't worry, it will tell you, I don't know this card. And it will check the case and punctuation. And the supported language are English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, sorry, Czech, and Filipino and Czech. All right. So that we added so far. We could add more languages, and of course, if the translations you find are ugly, just send a message to me, we'll fix them. And upgrades are already being planned, which means if you think some things are missing, don't worry, we know that they are, but this is a whole project being in our development. So also, the calculator will help you find a commander. You have this chart on the table, which is going to see after this presentation. So you get a filtering, ordering, sorting effect to just help you choose a commander, and it even tells you which commanders are the most played and the most appreciated by people in multiplayer or duel. All right. So if you want to use the calculator right now, you can, but I'm not going to stay long on the slide. If you want to scan the QR code, you will just get to do that. Pro tip, by the way, don't use this on a mobile. I mean, it works perfectly on mobile, but you don't want to build a deck list on mobile, trust me. On any website. So about the accessibility, we have timeline options. Timeline, which means up to which point are the cards going to be legal in a format. We do respect the timelines for Wizards of the Coast, Standard, Pioneer, Modern. We merged Legacy and Vintage in something we call Eternal, which is the case for Dual Commander. Then there's one other, which is called Funny, which you want to play with silver border cards, a corn card, stamps, attractions, stickers. And there's one final one, which is called Printed, where 100% of the cards are allowed. So we have some different p-values, which means if you cannot buy the most powerful cards, it's going to be taken into account. We are proxy friendly, so we have 3 game modes. The first one is you play with original unaltered proxies, unaltered magic cards, no proxies. Original or altered magic cards, which means proxies, or coming soon, we'll offer you a way to play with points only, no proxies, but money constraints, which means your deck will be money limited, and you will not have to care about the money, we will, and you will just have to care about the points. It's going to be crazy cool. And of course, the money value, which is going to be an indicator of how much your deck is worth to help people discuss with that. All right. So we decided to be proxy friendly because we just recommend allowing proxies regardless, whatever you want to build. But it's up to you to choose because let's face it, guys, nobody likes playing with proxies. Nobody likes to. We would prefer to have the original. We just like the game, we love the game, and we will love to have the real cards. Not just for money value or selling or whatever. It's just more comfortable. It feels weird to play with proxies regardless of how you do that, but sometimes you don't have a choice. And sometimes also it's not about the price. Sometimes it's just about the new card that you have ordered, not yet arrived, but the tournament's due tomorrow and you are into some shit. So the TOs get the final word, so it's up to you if you're a TO, and if you don't have a tournament, well, play with your friends and decide what you like or don't. And as we're saying, we plan to release an option that encompasses financial constraints into points at some moment, but maybe in a month to come. And also, we need AeonShift to work. If it doesn't, it's going to be taking longer. And don't forget about proxies to read Wizards of the Coast statement on proxies and communication and test cards. It's a 2016 blog article. It's still on the website, and I suggest you read it before asking questions. All right, about Dual Commander, about the thing we know. Well, do you remember all the changes we have made since 2007? That's a really long list, right? I know you remember the slides from last year because I just used that slide from last year. But yeah, there have been so many rules change. It's crazy. Every time there was one, you may not even remember. And if you haven't been playing Commander for, like I do, 18 years, maybe you don't, but I do. I was playing around 2007 and I knew I've been through all these rules changes, all right, including Rule 0 at start, because our shop, for instance, used to have different rules than the official ones. So what doesn't change? Let's be more, positive driven on that. Well, it's pretty easy. The dual games is still dual games. It's still singleton, not change on that. The color identity still works as intended and the way before. You still got 100 cards. You still got your life total stat, which is 20. The command zone, commanders, command tags, everything works the same. But the partners, maybe. But the thing that, what is a command zone, what is a commander, doesn't change. The commander casting doesn't change. The command tags, I say, doesn't change. The mulligans remain the same. And the round times remain the same. And also the round types, 2 winning rounds, right? So it's pretty much of like the vast majority of the rules don't change. So what changes, unfortunately, like we said, is forever we don't have a banned and restricted list. So the 4-4 section is removed. The partner 3s is removed as well because there is no reason to keep that rule now because we have more granularity over partners, which means you get to play crazy partners. We're going to see that in a moment. But also we have suspended the commander swap. Of course, imagine your first deck is built with Urubrask. You get a lot of points because it's old, it's 5 mana. Whoa, yeah, you get 150 something points. And game 2, you swap out and say, now my commander is Ragavan. Not fun. So that cannot work as intended for the moment. Yes, we have IDs, but the IDs are too complex and we don't want to show the IDs or force them down your way too soon. So yeah. And the future rules, we will have team variants, which is team trio, maybe two-headed giant, I'm not sure about that, and free-for-all, which means you should be suspicious right now about what I'm going to talk to you about for the next slides. So some rules are added as of today. The points as a dual commander card is specific. The points as a dual commander or a commander zone card, everything that is used in command zone is your commander. And the command zone points value takes precedence over the generic one if defined, which means if we set a value for, like example, a Cloud Midgard Mercenary as a commander, it will just look if we have set the point number for that, and if not, as a card in dual commander, and if not, as a card in singleton, which is the base value we use. So, in other words, the points as a commander overlaps the points outside the command zone. And of course, the deck listing is going to change as well. So, among the rank cards, we set up the points with IDs. Slamming the perfect mana base cannot be done anymore without losing points. Yes, you have 5 colors, 10 fetch lands, 10 dual lands from unlimited, revise, whatever. You can still play that. It's still legal, but not with every commander. And when you do that, you don't have many points left. So maybe you got a good mana base, but good luck on playing the rest. The mana base, by the way, now becomes part of the deck again. Just not a service subscription that you just slam the same cards with and you're like, yeah, nobody cares about the mana base with 1 or 2 exotic land per deck. The new commanders can still be played, but cannot overwhelm the current game stability without restraints. Yes, you can play the latest bomb, but not unchecked. The new non-commander cards, same thing. They can be played, but that will require an average building rework. So whatever is new is costing you points. And also the all-time staples that slowly creeping from the bottom just take precedence over everything else, they remain in check. And the shells or profiles, whatever you call it, for building certain tech types are less automatic and will require more choices. So yes, you can still build your mono blue control, your mono red slide burn, whatever you want it to be, your mono white good legends, your mono green, green red ramp, whatever. Everything that worked before still works. Doesn't matter, it still works. But it will work differently and you will have to make different choices. So for that, we went through a lot of choices, and you have seen that in the previous days. We had to make choices, and it was long. So for the mana bases, we had lots of ideas. We went through lots of analysis, and we ended up ranking the crazy vintage lands like Tabernacle at Penrylvale, Library of Alexandria, Mishra's Workshop, lots of these, but also the Alpha Beta Unlimited Revised Land. Sorry, Volcanic Island, you were not in Alpha, but you still count. And the Onslaught and Zendikar fetch lands. Is so far the only lands we wanted to have ranked. This might change in the future, but so far it's great. Which means automatically you will up rank and up value all the other thousands of lands in Magic the Gathering. And still, they're not banned. You can play them. And as you see, they're not worth a ton of points. It's just, it takes some place, and you will maybe have to think about that kind of spell, Source to Plowshares, or Demonic Tutor when you include them. So it's going to be a choice. And of course, we remain actively vigilant on all that. By the way, about the social media updates, the Discord will be progressively updated accordingly. I got a lot of work on doing Discord, but it's going to be done. I started doing so. You might have noticed some changes, but yeah. Facebook page has been almost updated. I think Facebook page it looks like it was. Believe it or not, some people only use Facebook with us, and the Facebook page, the website, they keep gaining popularity. The website has lost some visits since last October, but not that much, and it's still climbing up now, so it's cool. And the social media networks will follow in turn, so I think we will be might be creating some other social networks, depending on who wants to help us as social media managers for Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, whatever. The main website will remain in English only for now because translating everything is a nightmare, especially the rules. The calculator will support more translations in the future. So now, if you are still here and you really like, I mean, this is masochism at this point, really, guys. If you're still here, we're going to talk a little more about the reasons and the ways we've been going through that. All right, so be careful, this is just more advanced slides. So we want to offer p-values in the future and 2 more my image, as we said. The light play would provide a seriously nerf play even for more skill play, which means all the cards are still allowed, but some of them will be more than probably automatically unplayable, and some will be subject to too much sacrifice to be played, which means it's not going to be cheaper decks, even though it should normally. They will be much cheaper, but also much more diverse. Light play would allow much more diversity, and power play would allow less diversity, more like current Dual Commander, if not worse. And that's something we're thinking about. It's less interesting. We're not sure about power play, but I think we should think about a number for that. And the purpose of these is to offer different possibilities against further game solving or just unleashed plays. But it's at your own risk, because you already know what it gives right now. If you remove all the limits, then the game becomes less strategic, and it's slamming contest for every turn. So the point system in itself is extensible, which means even though they should remain physically within the 0 to 100 value for psychological reasons, they can actually go beyond that. They can be negative value, which is possible if you want to boost some cards that are so crazy interesting but so hard to include that nobody plays them, in which case we can have negative values, which is a bonus for your deck. So you can have a bonus for some cards if you include them. So far we have just tested with a couple card negative values, so don't worry about those. They shouldn't appear too soon. We can also have decimal values, but forget about that. This is too hard to remember. People don't like it. We went through that, and it's even better to have just 1000 points instead of 100 and multiply everything by 10, then adjust the values. But yeah, this is possible. So the format system in itself is extensible. This slide is going to be interesting to you. If you combine all the plan format options, which is deciding how many players there are, how many teams there are, how many cards there are in a deck, if you use sideboards, 4 copies, 1 copies, your timeline and everything, you get over 432 formats, which is crazy like right now. If you include the financial constraints, it's considered to be 864. But of course, nobody's going to remember 432 formats. So most of them are weird. Like, can you imagine yourself in the future when we release all the rules, playing 60 cards with sideboards, a commander, and 4 copies? That's kind of weird, but will be probably possible. It's up to you to choose. I mean, we don't know whatever you guys are going to like, but we know for sure what you're going to take care of, especially. So the essential formats are called start formats, and those are either echoing to something known to players, like Commander, everyone knows Commander, or part of our ongoing plan. Like Eternal is going to be a format for us. It's going to be a merge of Legacy and Vintage. So what is the horizon of what we want to do? The first thing that we want to do and we think about right now is maintain Dual Commander as a top priority. But what else? We want to start working on Commander and CDH, because let's face it, the bracket system, the game changer system is a crazy good concept. I talked about it actually before it was released, but it doesn't work. So what we're going to need is a special list and a special point list for Commander and CDH, probably merged, because we don't necessarily make a difference between both of these plays, but this should be actually one of the most interesting formats to play with a point system, because it's going to be crazy to balance for 4-player games, free for all, but crazy doesn't mean impossible. We're going to start working on Eternal, which, as I said, is Vintage plus Legacy merged, 4 copies of, and as you know, like the official Wizard of the Coast rule don't really matter about these formats now, but there should still be a way to play Eternal. And we also start working on Highlander. Why? Because Highlander is somehow contested among different rules too, so why not just get into the battle? And Highlander is practically like dual commander when it comes to balancing. The only thing that changes is commander, right? So yeah, pretty interesting. And the rest will remain beyond our end of sight at the moment, but yes, I know we are able to balance modern, pioneer, and standard more than probably pauper as well. That's something we have been thinking about. So we can have multiple teams working on the specialized formats and licenses, because if someone wants to care about something else than Magic, I'm all ears. We will be taking care of the website development, so this remains possible, and the rest can be done and should be done by specialists. All right. So how do you determine the correct values? Well, beyond the 100 points memorizable ease, there are a few considerations that you should keep in mind when estimating the p-values. If you look at other games, like the original, the true, real point system extended is Warhammer. If you don't know how it is, just Google it, you'll find that Warhammer is one of the most popular table games. It's crazy interesting, and depending on the rules you follow, you have about 500 to 3,000 points. When playing Infinity, which is about the same kind of game, board games and figure games, it's 100 to 300. Sorry. The Dungeons and Dragons gives you 27 points to use as statistics points for your characters when building it. War Machine is about 25 to 100. The GURPS system is using 100 to 400. If you've been playing Diablo 2 like I have been for years, your stats and characteristics and skill points are about 500 and 110. If you use Path of Exile, if you play Path of Exile, you got 140 points to distribute among characters. Borderlands 4, you have abilities in Borderlands 4. You cannot choose all of them, you have 50 points to play. Well, the average 6 possible divisions by 2 while remaining an integer value. So if you use 100, you can divide 6 times by 2 on the average with 2 values, and you still got an integer value. So it's pretty easy to make a difference in 6 levels of magnitude between 2 cards, like cards A and B, then A, B, and C, then A, B, C, and D, and you can have all those different points. So this is why 100 is still acceptable to us as a number. All right. And if you want to nosebleed, the theory would be the number of unique game items, number of cards, multiplied by the average number of cards, which is 100, and average copies, which is 1, which, especially if you consider the command zone, which should be about 5.6 million values. So if you want to have a ranking system that goes from 0 to 5.6 million, good luck. I don't think you're going to have a lot of players with that. So the practical values, what are they? Well, among the 31,000 magic cards, only 40% are truly different. The rest is just more or less the same. Only 20% actually saw play, visibly play on tournaments, lists, decks reported, and everything like that. And the approach actually surpasses the perfection, research for perfection, which means every time we rank a card, we have n plus something more playable cards. At some point, ranking cards means we would just not make any more card playable, and this point is not reached yet. It's far, far below. I believe something like 7 to 800,000 cards being ranked in the point system. So we are still cool. And the barrier, if it is reachable, is really far ahead of all this. So far, just so you know, we barely have 1,000 cards. We have actually 700 and something cards ranked so far, and it's way more than enough to cool down how you play and to open a lot of possible new builds. We will not balance the lowest ones, because telling the difference between 2 similar cards is just beyond human reach, beyond the human brain. So imagine you see this card, just so you understand. It's a 6/6, 2 green, 4 generic, reach, enters, you gain 3 life and cycling. Good. Now, you have this beautiful honey mammoth. Enters the battlefield, ETB, gain 4. Which one of these is the best? Well, I suppose it's the one above, like dinosaur, elephant. I think dinosaurs have more keywords and interest in magic, right? But then you have this colossal dreadnought, and compare it to honey mammoth. Do you think it's better to have trample or gain 4 life? Well, depending on the format you play, the answers might be different. It's already a nightmare, right? But now you have this one. The Scarlet Spider has vigilance and reach. Vigilance and reach, probably better than gaining 4 life, not sure. Better or less than trample? You cannot answer, remember, you cannot answer, it depends. You have to set up points. So if you want to reach these ones, it's going to be a nightmare. Then you have this atrocity. This is power creep, by the way. This is strict power creep. This is clearly ranked more points than the previous one. Spoiler, we didn't rank this card. We don't care. But if we did rank all the cards, how would you make a difference between those two? And then you have this kind of atrocity. And look at this. It's still Vigilance, Reach, Trample, but it has one more ability that is absolutely crazy, but one less mana value, so boom, it becomes mythic. But it's older. So how do you balance this one? And then you have this one too. You have this one too. And it never ends, actually. How do you rank all these cards? Which one is the best? I put you about 12. There is about like 5 times more cards that are 6/6 something with 6 mana value close to those. So it's just crazy to rank all these cards. We will not rank all these cards. All right? So to understand how it is to rank cards and why it's efficient, think of all the cards as a pyramid. The best ones on the top, the lowest played ones, the shittiest ones on the bottom. You push down further the top ones into the lower floor. You get a new top that is slightly larger with slightly more cards. And the thing is, with just pushing a couple more cards on the top to the bottom, you got everything on the bottom closer to the top. You rinse, repeat with more and more cards, with less and less visible results, but more and more diversity. So what we do is we pledge to balance the game from the top as far as we find it reasonable. Like I said, so far we identified correctly 700 cards. This is a slide I included a couple months ago in my last year presentation. In short, this is your legal or ranked card pool, and this is your visibly played card pool. This is like a ruler that you just, a slide that you just go to the left or right. So the more you have cards legal, the less they are played, and they are visibly played, and the more you want visibly played cards, the less they should be legal. So this is the same that the graph I put, but instead of being just legal, illegal, they're just more or less ranked. So this creates another dimension in that. So rankings, they will certainly evolve. We're not saying that they are going to be super nice, but are going to be perfect. We're humans, we make mistakes. So what we do is we say that we shouldn't do a major points update too often. Next month, maybe. In 2 months, maybe, but less. In 3 months, probably not. And in 4 months, I assume we will not need that. And we don't need 1,000 games for that. We just need coherent and intelligent feedback. We don't even need thousands of tournaments. We just need test people who break the game and give us, look, this is a list that's broken. It's close to beyond the power level of what you want, and you got it, right? So yes, power creep from Wizards of the Coast will still devour the game. We cannot prevent that, but we believe we can still hold it very well. So does that mean you get to play the 31,000 different cards? No, you will not play that squire of yours. It will not work. But we pledge to have multiplied the number of playable cards by 3 or 4. So, about the partners. Yeah, the partners. As you know, we have published this a couple days ago, and you guys were kind of puzzled by this, because it means that all the partner abilities work as intended, so all the partners are legal. which means you can play the topmost atrocities like Isior, Wildwing Familiar, and Survival Smasher the Fierce. If you don't know these cards, just Google what they do. You will be finding pretty soon with your eyebrows raised that this is kind of a crazy build. Yoshimaru Kaleth, Yoshimaru Esior, you can think of many super powerful combinations. So we try to balance that with generic rules and specific points as well, so that globally we thought it would work. And also remember, the partner abilities can also not be played, and you can choose one commander in itself. So they had to be nerfed. They are a visible proof that marketing's overflowing strategy, because they are crushing everywhere value. I mean, right now, just go to MTG Top 8, look at CEDH, look at even Dual Command right now. If you take the sum of all partner decks, they just crushed. They're number one played. Altogether, they are number one played, below everything else, beyond everything else. So we observe that Choose a Background is an exception due to the fact it uses one creature only. One background is also a creature, be soulful. And Choose a Background therefore takes regular mana value malus, but only for creatures and a lesser partner value. Malus, sorry. And the other partner abilities, they take reduced mana value, but they have a stronger partner malus, and of course, individual points. Now, you asked me about the future-proof IDs. How do you make sure that people don't tilt and get crazy because one set is released and it breaks everything? Oh, hello, Modern Horizons. Notably, but not only. Well, you have seen this picture that says things are unranked and they become legal after one date. So the calculator will take that into account for you, don't worry. If you put a card that is not released yet, but the system knows about it, it's going to tell you, whoa, this card is worth 10 points by default. We can set different points value for everything, but we set 10 points to cards. All right, so these cards, notably the ones on the top here, are not released yet. So the thing is, when you think about things that have been traumatizing the player base in the past, if you remember my 2023 talk, there's a dilemma between on one side, letting the player realize how emerging staples can destroy the game, and on the other side, remaining conservative and safe for the game, preemptively banning the cards. For example, Najila the Blight Blossom was banned a couple weeks after it was released, before everyone gets to play it, so people were like, why did you ban this? All right, same for different things that we have banned in the past. So the future and new sets, they usually represent a threat either when new combinations are created, which doesn't happen that often. It happens, it still happens, but yeah, I mean, for instance, Nadu suddenly became a combination that's powerful with lots of self-equipping 3/0 mana equipments, for instance, but it practically combos with everything, so you don't need to be finding out that perfect combination, but yeah. Or the new cards, they just overpower any previous one, which is more often the case. So in both cases, when these cards get printed and they are released, well, we introduced the concept of default points, which is called unranked cards. And the unranked points can be set on default points for singleton and quadruple values, but also for start format specific values, like for cards in the 99, or specific values like conditional, like cards as a commander. So, for instance, yes, as a commander, and we chose 10 for the standard play right now, because it changes depending on your p-value. So for standard play p-value, it's 10 for the 99, and 30 as a dual commander. We will monitor that, but we think it should be enough to limitate how new commanders and stuff affect the game. So they remain playable. They might be broken if they are worth more than 30 points nerfing, which is not the case for many of them, and even if they are, they will still suffer from that malus. And of course, you will not be able to include the new commanders and the new cards more than 7 times, because that by default, that gives you 100 points of malus, all right? And a couple more rules before we almost to the end right now. We do provide rules and infraction procedure guide for the format and p-value communication on organizer and player side, the deck list legality and checking, the deck legality and checking, which is what you're playing the cards against your deck list, the infractions, and we have added the necessity to require digital deck list. We're in 2026 now, so it shouldn't be a problem. You just copy paste in the calculator. If you're a TO or a judge, we also plan to make it downloadable as a standalone app like Discord, but you can even use on the web or download. This is on the work. You just check the results, you paste the list, you copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and this can be done like multiple hundreds of times per second. So it's pretty lightning fast for the TO to just check the lists that the players have provided. And the calculator will also check the integrity, the number of cards, the identity. It will tell you why it's wrong, so you can ask your players to just double check it. Of course, the points, the timelines, and probably as soon as we release that, the future financial constraints. All right? So you basically, it looks like this. If you go to website, if you haven't been going on website right now, you just look at this. So you get to put your deck in that, and you paste the list, and it says, like, for instance, the deck I just pasted here on the left, it says, good, your deck is legal, everything's checked. By the way, if you want to get your modulations here, your budget points are 82. You spent all of this, but 32, so 50 actually, and it gives you whatever points you used in your deck list, and it says, good, your deck is good. So if it's not like this other deck I pasted here, it says, oh wait buddy, you have 82 points and you actually spent 95, so you're exceeding 30 more. So what it says is that, look, this is the breakdown of what you played, so if you want to reduce your deck and make it legal, you just have to remove 13 points. So for instance, Wish Clue, Talisman, and Mental Missteps are 13. Good, you just remove them and your deck will immediately appear like that, which is great. So about the timelines, like I explained, all the cards are legal in AeonShift by default, but we respect the timelines because we still wanted to create different timelines and use what Wizards of the Coast does because it's kind of good. So the timeline, or maximum timeline, is the pool of legal cards and how far it reaches in time. It's more multidimensional for the oldest ones, but yeah. The only available timeline will be Eternal, which again, remember, is whatever is legal in Vintage plus whatever is restricted in Vintage plus Sherazade. Fine. So, yeah, if in future cards are set as banned or restricted in Vintage, they will also be legal in Eternal timeline in AeonShift. So it's pretty easy to understand, right? It's what you were used to, but without a ban list, without a banned and restricted list. All right. So we will open more timeline in the future. Of course, the first one we think about is probably going to be Modern, because it's the less hardest of them to be balanced. And of course, before you ask, we don't consider digital only stuff. We are paper guys. So it's okay. We could add a multiple timeline version with arena specific, with alchemy rebalance and stuff like that, but truly it needs to be implemented on arena side. So maybe one day, but yeah, we don't do that. All right. So there are weird exceptions. This is very, very advanced. Beyond Eternal still lies about 1,500 cards. Depending on how you choose and how you select them, it's more or less double or twice as half. The kitchen table is cool, but there's a timeline we call funny. Funny cards as all the funny cards. So the silver bordered cards, the acorns, the attraction, contraptions, and stickers. Not the taste cards. They're not funny, by the way. But beyond funny, we have something we call printed or all time, which adds the weird stuff like anti cards, the culturally inappropriate cards, the 7 of them, yes, the test cards, the promotional only cards like the Christmas cards, the memorabilia, whatever you have. If you really want to have fun with your friends, you just use this one. And it also contains Chaos Orb and Falling Star for accessibility and inclusive reasons. Like, in short, if you want to play these cards, there is a physical limitation. You have to stand, you have to use your arm, and let the cards fall on the table under the supervision of a judge. And I don't want to see how people who have physical disabilities are told to do so. So I think it should be limited to casual play. I really love Chaos Orb and Falling Star. It's kind of a shame that we could not include them along with Sherazade, but to us they are really closer to Anti than they are to Sherazade. Maybe we'll change that, but I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for some people. It would be humiliating. Also, we will not rank any card beyond Eternal. The timelines, they are just added for deck validation with Funny Limitless Play, and they're not playable on tournament as well. And you might have later on the kitchen table builder, which you just pile cards. You don't care about the format you play. The game will tell you how many points they are worth, and you can play with your brothers and sisters, and will tell you deck A is 156, deck 2 is 179, so you should play with your brother and with your good old cards from the attic. It should be fine. So when calling about the arbitration, you have a pretty good principle. The base games, the underlying games, go first. Whatever you want to play AeonShift on top. So far it's Magic the Gathering only, but it will be the same if we have virtual licenses. And then you apply AeonShift on top of it, which means the infraction type for Magic are pretty easy. Gameplay errors are all handled by MTG EPG. And the unsupporting conducts, same thing. Tournament errors, same thing. Except decklist problems. So the rules we added for budget overflow, we had to. We also added rules for budget undervalue and for mislisting and changes in case your decklist is not correct before, during, or after the tournament, and in case the player presented a deck that is not correct against the decklist. All right. So there comes a question that you guys might be asking, how do you rank an item? How do we? So we will not disclose the whole idea of ranking, but I want you to follow and understand these rules. So I'm going to slow down on this. Number one, the points value is not the item power. All right. Second, the point value is not the item power. I know I'm repeating myself. But this is something you got to understand, because otherwise you're going to try to rank the points in your head and you're going to misunderstand how the points are attributed. There are dozens of criteria to trigger points being assigned to an item. It's just like we used to do for Dual Commander. It's a threshold, a concording beam of suspiciously high conditions, all right? And the criteria, they just don't add. It's much more complex than this. Sure, the card is inaccessible, it's super expensive, it's just a 2-card combo. Sure, it is a card that is recent from a shitty set. Sure, it works in a very accessible color, whatever. The thing is, you cannot just add one methodology to find the cards. You can't. It was not the case before, it is not going to be the case in the future. So, our full methodology will remain internal, notably because this is a beta test, so we don't want to have endless loops on attributions. But don't worry, we will read the players' opinions and also think about it. We also need some reports on the cards that you think are worth playing, but nobody plays. So maybe sometimes we will need to think of the points down, and something tells me that we're going to need to do a lot of these. So yeah, just so you know, we went through hundreds, if not thousands, of deck lists at the very least, and we rebrowsed everything what was played in Magic across all the formats, from vintage to standard to good old standards to 1999 standards and good old extended formats. We have checked as many cards as we could, and you understand why you cannot do this with people who are new to Magic, because they are more than probably unable to rank the cards. I mean, I've been playing for 21 years, and I don't think it's even enough. So that's really crazy. You need good old boomers to be able to rank the cards up to the Ninja Turtles. That's really, really hard. So you want to know what actually is the criteria, right? You just ask, can we have a clue? I'm going to give you clues. So first of all, yes, despite what I said on the last slide, I know the raw impact of a card, everyone can read it. And sometimes they don't need anything else. Like reading Ancestral Recall is probably the easiest of them. Ancestral Recall to me is the easiest card you need to think about and think of a standalone card. Ancestral Recall doesn't need anything else. In Commander, of course, it needs blue color identity. Fine, that's the only restriction. Then, if you had no restriction on playing blue, you have exactly zero reason why not to include Ancestral Recall, and you don't need to think what is going to be synergizing with. Sure, you can put it on one of these artifacts or enchantments that allow playing them infinite number of times. Sure, it works with Snapcaster Mage and a lot more combinations. But this means you need to think of this card as a raw impact. Then, of course, interaction and combination. You know Thassa's Oracle, for instance. Thassa's Oracle doesn't do shit by its own. Or Jace, Willer of Mysteries, I think. But you know there are a couple ways you can empty your library, play this, and win on the spot. Not cool, right? So you need to consider these cards together, but also you need to consider these cards with each of them in cascade with a number of 10, 20, 50 cards that also synergize with each of them separately. So now you understand why this is really hard, because sometimes you feel like you regulated the game by cutting one head of a Hydra, but it just actually grew 3 more heads and you just didn't solve anything. Also, once you start ranking the cards, you have to rate your evaluation and the final point number against all of the other ranked cards, which means the complexity grows in number of ON, which means we have already 700 cards. And now we're gonna ask ourselves for each card, is it worth next to this one or not this one or better than this one? But when you put it, for instance, 7 points of the cards, 7 points doesn't mean you need to go through all the 7 points rated cards, because they are not necessarily related to each other. Which means, once again, like I said on the last slide, the power, the use of the card is not to be strictly compared with each other. For instance, one thing I'm going to tell you for sure, being a tutor effect is not enough. You need much, much more than this. Then comes the ease of inclusion. Let me tell you about artifacts, for instance. Sol Ring? Sol Ring? You know a hot take I have? If Sol Ring wasn't accidentally forgotten on the reserve list, Sol Ring would be probably more expensive than a Black Lotus right now. Because Sol Ring is crazy. It goes everywhere. In any format you could play Sol Ring, you would include it. Same for the Moxes, but at least in Commander, they have a color identity for the 5 original ones I'm talking about. So it's really hard to say, but sometimes some cards are busted, but they are not really easy. Mishra's Workshop is crazy. Does it go with every single deck? Absolutely not. If you take the average Dual Commander deck right now, you put Mishra's Workshop, it will be a brick. It will not do anything in your deck, but 1 or 2 card casting at a moment and a timing you will not even give a fuck about. Then, of course, yes, there is accessibility. And we think about that despite we offer and we promote using proxies and might include the money value in the next months. Because yes, when you rank a card, we're not stupid. We know that Black Lotus is crazy tens of thousands of dollars. We know that a single dual commander staple card like Volcanic Island is 1 month of the minimum wage in Brazil, in real. We know that. We've studied that. We've kept an eye on that all the time we were in charge. And same goes for other countries, including the rich countries. Even for someone in the USA or France or Germany, it's not that easy to get a dual land this cheap. Also, some cards have a psychological impact, and even though the cards are strategically interesting, players don't like them. It's just like it is. Like, players don't like some cards. And we have to take that into account. Like, sure, it doesn't break the game, but it's boring. Sometimes this will be a couple more points or less points, depending on what it is. Because also it could be a positive psychological impact. Some people just like casting some cards like really well. And also it could be a card that has some automation or impoverishment. Like, for instance, Edgar Markov as a commander. Whatever you're going to do, or a Rabo, whatever you're going to do, you will have the trigger on the stack. Every, I think it's attack phase for both of them, I'm not really sure, I don't remember, but you will have this. When you play a vampire, you will pay and make a copy and get some token. You will boost your cats with a Rabo. It will work all the time. If you play Ragavan, if you play 1 mana commander, what is preventing you from not playing it on turn 1? Nothing. This is something that people really don't like, because it means that the turn 1 of a game is really interesting and strategic. And if you already know what's going to be, like, oh, I look at your commander and you're playing Kellan the Trailblazer, so turn 1 Kellan, right? And like, yeah, fine, turn 1 Kellan. I mean, turn 1 Ragavan if you can include it, and it's legal and it's not your commander. Fine, not cool, right? Not cool to see turn 1 Oslo Pride, turn 1 Tamiyo. Is it really good for a game to have that on turn 1? You see it and immediately your reaction is like, you don't want to play that game, right? I mean, it's cool, you will compete, you will try to win, it's a challenge, but sometimes you're just bored with that. And also sometimes, as you know, we have structural rule constraints, and some cards go against the rule constraints, like Tasigur, the Golden Fang, for instance, or Hogarth. Hogarth just goes against the rules constraints. I'm thinking about Eris. More subtly, Golos. Golos actually gets a land on every turn, which reduces the command attacks by 1. So yeah, we have to take that into account as well. And sometimes some cards are okay. They are not destructing every game. They are not so bad, so powerful, but they're played everywhere. So most of the time, it should be good. Like, you're playing green, Birds of Paradise will be close to auto-include. It's cool. But some cards, I don't have one in mind right now, but some cards, they just, you know, when they become too much of an automation in building, they should just take a little more points. Up to the point they are still included, but just a little more than the others, or just as close as the others, right? Then building automation, which means play white, source to pressure, good luck. Play commander, command tower, good luck. That is not good. Even though command tower is $0 and extremely good because it's never gonna get proxied because everyone has tons of command towers. It's flooded with 80 or 100 reprints right now, but the problem is it's too easy to include that. So yeah, of course, you're thinking about Caracas in commander. Caracas is okay. It's not devastative, but it's really hard because you don't really want to face Caracas. And when you play it, you're like, okay, that's a blank land that will never remain untapped. It will never be used for mana, and you know it's going to bounce an enemy commander as often as it could. So we are allowing Caracas right now, but you have to pay some points for that. You don't just include Caracas because you play white. And of course, we have no pity, no shame on the marketing overflow, the game safety, and effects. You guys don't really seem to be that much enthusiastic about Universe and Beyond. We are not really either. You guys don't really like Modern Horizons because it's breaking the game and everything else becomes forgotten, and it costs a lot because the boosters are expensive, the singles are expensive. So we know about that. And also, sometimes, for instance, when playing Commander, well, this card is bad in Magic. It would never be played in any format. It would be legal, including Standard if it was Standard and slow. But in Commander, it happens to be really, really good and super played. So, yeah, maybe it will need some points because it's too easy to build around, or it will win too often, which is about like estimating sometimes the metagame and the cheesiness of commanders. So there are really, really a lot more of reasons why a card should gain points. I mean, we don't even know the entirety of all these rules. Some of these will just come to us as Wizard Spring cards. We don't know what's in the future, so, and you don't either, so yeah. So, structurally speaking, what wins and what loses? The winners, clearly the older cards, but not all of them. We cannot have all the cards, the old cards brought back up. If we want to bring more older cards and dig them to be playable, we need to rank the cards much, much more, raise the points of everything or minus their points, and rank more cards. The last one is probable, the other two, less probable. So what is a winning deck now? What is winning out of that? Your homebrew deck, the one you didn't look for online, the one where you chose your cards and say, I'm going to play a couple cards that I think are great, not because people told me they are great. And I've got that weird deck of mine that still works, but it's struggling to compete against whatever, Aragon, Ezio, whatever, and it's going to lose all the time. And what is the purpose of having a tournament and inventing your decks that are strategic, synergetic, but yet lose against anything that is played and not even constructed and invented by others? Yeah. So the fair decks should be winners. The fair cards should be winners. With a margin, it's a gradient again. So the people who have money restrictions, clearly the good winners of AeonShift. The deck builders, oh my god, you're back to business, guys. Start to raise company and funds. How many of you can do hours of streaming right now building decks with people? I don't imagine. This is crazy. How long are you going to take building your decks and you have to search for all the cards all over again? So the obsolete commanders, they are back in the game. Maybe too much. We'll need to take care about that. And everything that has been erased while being new. You know what I'm talking about. The cards that just got released. Everyone's like, wow, this is so cool. And then 6 months later, like, yeah, it just doesn't work. So you bought the card for no reason. And the losers, the top staple cards as a gradient. By the way, the old banned cards are neither winners or losers. They have a really high amount of points. Most of them. So whatever is hype driven, like we want to stun the competition because you're playing something people are not yet used to, which is actually strategic. But how to say, some people have a couple minutes or hours per week to give to playing commander, dual commander. Some have nothing to do of days. So someone who's playing Magic Online for 3 hours a day is going to be crushing someone who never plays. In the long end, of course. So you cannot be all the time building whatever was out this week. Sometimes you don't have the time, and this allows you some strategic and competitive advantage. Still works, but less. The power creep decks, all the decks you've put in the attics because you used to win with that, you have good stories to tell from 2017, and then the deck stopped working. Well, maybe it's back to life with a couple new additions. Also, the functional auto-upgraded card slots, which means you get a deck, it's stable, and you're just waiting for something new to be out. Like you're playing mono red and you got the new Goblin from Lorwyn Eclipsed. You just look at your slot like, oh, this is strictly replacing A or B, and you just remove one card, shove one over, and boom. That's it. Deck is built and upgraded. That is not really sane and mentally cool, you know. The 4 or 5 color soup, as I said, is going down, seriously. Not eliminated. This is just a legitimate way of building Magic, but not the way you intend it to be. So the decks that I say are 95 percentile solve, which is the decks that have 95% of the cards that will not move for the next year. And also the archetypes that only depends on whatever is newly printed. So the calculator, in order to prevent theft, is open sourced because we've lost a lot of things in Dual Commander over the last months. So this time, no more stealing. The calculator is open source. So good luck stealing something that is free and open. It's ready for the future formats. It's ready for future licenses. And it will soon be able, as I said, as a self-updating offline application. in case you have a network with no cell phone network or it goes down or something, it will work. It started working, but we need to work on that on Windows 7 to 11, Mac OS X, and Debian and Appium-based distributions for Linux. So good. And a couple last slides, and we are almost to the end. Due to the past events from 5 years, yes, I'm referring to what happened mainly for February 2022 to October 2025. The team will remain hidden. They are still free to tell people about their role at their own risk. So yes, I am in the team, but no, I'm not alone. If you want to know how many, that's something I can tell you. There's no definitive team right now. Nothing's official. People come and leave, but about the same as you have fingers on your two hands. All right. And I will still hold some question and answer sessions, maybe later, in addition to the one we're going to have if you're still awoken at this late time. And the communication will be maintained to a strict minimum. So we do not intend to be spending our time justifying ourselves on everything else. And if you don't know what it does, look at Premodern, for instance. The guy, Martin, behind Premodern is super nice. He made a presentation, he gave a format, he gave a website, and if you want to discuss, you're just doing somewhere else because he mostly doesn't want your direct feedback. This is not because you guys are stupid or else, it's not at all. It's just because there is a problem that I call the observer problem, which is the same as quantum physics. You see, in quantum physics, if you want to observe a phenomenon, you have to have this phenomenon manifest itself. It has to speak to you. And it's the same in Commander, it's the same in Magic. If you ask the players, or if you establish a communication link with the players, or if you just let them think that they can just spam and spam and spam the same ID, so in the end you will think that it's a generally accepted ID. This is crowd manipulation. This is called astroturfing, if you don't know what it is. And this is opinion manipulation. And we don't want to fall into that again, because clearly this is what has happened to us over the last years and led to the final events in October, which I don't really want to talk about because it's really sad. So yeah, that being said, we are recruiting for further formats balance. So if you think you can help, globally you should be some kind of Magic veteran, but it's not mandatory, or you can also be helping us for diverse reasons, for social networks, for everything else. And the good thing is the point system is much more complex than a ban list, so you don't really have that much pressure on, because everyone knows there are going to be point changes. They're going to be slam testing their decks if they want to play AeonShift, so they will just press F5 on the website, input their decks and say, all right, my deck is still the same. Oh, I lost 2 points. My deck is now illegal. I have to change a couple cards, and it's fine. And me, DarkFX, will remain the proxy of the team and your sole and only interface. All right. So as you know, I'm nice, but my patience is cool, is long. I can help you for many things, but there are limits for everyone. And I'm human too, so as I took a lot of harassment over the last months, I'm not going to be as patient as I used to be, but I'm still, of course, I'm not such a bad guy. So the mission, just to end, because we're going to be to the end, we're going to reach in the end of this presentation now, is remember, we're just an overlay game, which means Wizards of the Coast is in charge of the core game, the game PCs, everything, and Magic the Gathering is great. If we didn't think so, we would have abandoned all that. But we just read the new cards like you all do. We have no more information, no influence on anything. And as humans, should we make mistakes? Well, we get better and we fix the mistakes. So yeah, remember, this is just our first public beta, right? And this is Brave New World for you and Brave New World for us. Last, I wanted to say that during prototyping, we had lots of ideas. I mean, lots of ideas. Tens, if not hundreds of hours of call and adjustments. And we finally discarded lots of ideas for ease of use because we thought people would just nosebleed and drool on themselves and not be able to play them or not like them, or maybe it would not be good rules. So yeah, some rules have mutual incompatibility, so you like them, but when you have the tools at the same time, they're impossible to set up. Or simply because the point system would be so hard to just, yeah. So I'm going to give you a couple clues of what we have discarded. First of all, we thought about extending the first print bonus malus to the 100% cards. Let me be blunt with you. This is the absolute banger and killer. If we have a curve that says what year your deck is printed, this would balance automatically based on the popularity of the decks, retroactively everything. But it cannot be done, because players would not be able to change their cards without knowing what it would give. The points would be undetermined. So yeah, this was discarded. First of all, something that we sadly had to think about, and I regret this, we originally had lore-related bonus to Adam's related EDH Dragon, Adam being the creator of EDH, such a cool guy, and Kevin being the inventor of Dual Commander, and Sheldon being the man behind everything that made EDH and Dual Commander and Commander popular and exist, and Richard Garfield's original iconic card. So we had the idea of giving extra irrational bonuses to these cards. Maybe that will come back one day, but we wanted to do that. We have that ready, but we thought it was too much of a boomer thing, and we just discarded that. Also, we added bonus. We discarded added bonus based on rarity, which is great. So we originally think that Dual Commander should have a bonus if you only played without mythics, or without mythics, rares, and mythic rares and rares. We also had the same idea on the mana base, which means if you use no rare land on mana base, you get bonus. Only basic, you get even more bonus. We thought about giving bonus or malus to the color identity. We thought having automatic base point conversion to base from base to as a commander, which means if your card was worth 10 points in the 99, it would be worth 30 as a commander, 30 in the 99, 90 as a commander. But as you know, this would be too many points in the end, so we discarded that too, but it would be simpler to understand. We discarded adding bonus for choosing commanders based on decades, like if your commander was from the 2010 or 2000 or 1990s, because it was not fine-grained enough. We discarded using some mana values for command zones. We discarded choosing to always be on the draw and have a bonus because you never want to play. We discarded using companion and attraction points specifically, basic lands only, like I said, unranked for only the next set. So yeah, this is just too random and the sets are unequal in size, and many more. So yeah. Finally, I just want you to say whatever you had to say. If you think it's a good idea, just get involved. So first of all, you can play, you can do whatever you want, and yes, we are somehow back to 2007. No tournaments, no judges, no shop, no players. We are starting from the ground, but we got some huge visits on the website. You are here in this Twitch right now. We got some people on Discord. I believe we're not starting from the scratch, and if you believe that point system is giving you the will to play Magic again, to get back to your binders and get those old cards you thought were dead forever, now is the time. Because if you don't do something, if you don't do anything for the game, then the game will die. So it's gonna last maybe a long time. It's gonna need rebalancing. It's gonna be needing feedback. It's gonna be needing cool guys, players, deck builders. I mean, personally, after taking all this time on this game with the team, I think I still want to try building again with that, because I have more or less stopped paper Magic. I was only playing Arena recently, and I think this is worth it. Like, having to look at all your old cards and saying everything can be played now, and you're gonna make sacrifices and be happy about that. Like, yes, I'm going to remove these staples I didn't want to play because they have nothing to do with my decks. I'm going to be freed of the money they cost, and I can get something very cool from my old binder. Some people, very rare, will still even say, oh wait, I can get my Time Walk working again? Why not? Well, Time Walk is quite hard to include in a deck. It's legal, but you will see pretty soon how many points it's worth. You're like, all right, but we need all of you guys, and as you know, everyone's going to be looking at each other like, are you doing something? No. How about you? I don't know. I'm waiting. Everyone's going to be waiting. So the first one who say, I'm going to step in, will be the one deciding how the game will go. And yes, we need everyone to be involved if you think this is cool or if you think this needs some more tuning and stuff. And also, if you want to directly be part of the team and help us, help AeonShift grow, well, you know who to contact, right? So yeah, now is your time to crack the game. Maybe we were wrong, maybe we did mistakes, maybe we'll need some heavy fixing, but it's yours to tell now. I already have beta testers, we have alpha testers, some people are building this. They have been building all days. They're waiting for us to give us some feedback on that. And I believe we should have the first tournaments as soon as people want it to be. And needless to say, if you make tournaments and you specify they're using AeonShift, don't be afraid of reporting them to MTG Top 8. They will be on MTG Top 8, right? So yeah, that is me. That is done. And that is all I had to say. You guys were talking a lot in the chat, so I will take your questions right now. And yes, this is me. You wanted to see my face. Let me put the camera in front of me. And hello, chat. So, oh, there's so many questions. All right. So, I'm going to go from the start. Because I think some of your questions were asked before. So the GitHub is closed yet. It will be open in a few minutes because I need to open the GitHub. Oh, I will need to translate the question in Czech. But I think you guys answered each other. Also, oh, what is that? Some moderation thing, no, it's fine. You guys asked each other. So I think I answered all the questions previously asked. So I'm a bit afraid of some cards are so bad that ranking them isn't a priority. I'm used to build decks, including very obscure cards, which means I would be punished for playing. No, actually it's the opposite. If you play cards that don't have points yet, but are what you say obscure, which means nobody's playing them, that means they are just generally less good than the others, but you found a way to build around them. So you're a winner of that. You're a winner of that ID if you do so. So yeah, it means well, I got so many notifications from everywhere. All right, I need to check many things at the same time. And yes, you are a winner in that system because the cards that are bad ranking, they don't have any ranking at all, right? So that means that normally they should be, hold on, let me get the question somewhere. They should be more playable because the ones that were crushing you will be ranked in points. The condition is that when you say obscure cards, that means also cards that were not banned and cards that you did not surround with the classic staples. Like, I don't know, you were playing Word of Command because you think Word of Command is crazy, but your deck was about Demonic Tutor, was about Orcish Bowmasters, and adding blue, you wanted to play Force of Will, over blue shell, you want to add Mana Drain and stuff. Well, you're not playing obscure cards anymore. You're playing a super crazy staple shell with one or two obscure cards, so it's different. Didn't you say unranked cards were like 10 points? Yes, the default is 10 points. I got two screens, which is what I'm switching sides, and you might see me looking at side. 10 points. That's the value we came up with, and we think it's pretty easy to remember. It's 10th of a dual commander deck, number of cards, and also it's probably efficient because why not? We went through the current dual commander decks, and we looked at how many cards were played while always being released after. In other words, we went to the past to check how many unranked cards were played. You would be surprised that a couple of years ago, before 2019, 2018, none of them, or 0 to 1 cards was played. And right now, it's 0 to 3. I've seen a couple decks, like 1% of the decks run 3 cards that would be unranked as of today. Most of the deck play 0 to 1, and it's slightly shifted due to the graph we've seen on novelty. It's slightly shifted to 1 and 2 now. So actually, what is the difference between playing a card that you think is crushing all the previously Magic cards that were released, and it's worth 10 points? You will see much of the cards are worth 10 points. Most of them are under 10 points, so it's slightly over the average. But yes, it's going to be 10 points. And if you have a commander and you want to use a new commander that gets recently printed, you don't get to do it for free. And of course, we cannot have an announcement every day because Wizards of the Coast releases cards on Mondays, on Thursdays. Today is Ninja Turtles on everywhere, right? On Magic Arena and stuff. So it is on Tuesdays, on Saturdays. It never ends. So if you want to do that, you have to publish updates ahead of the set's release, while also maintaining the current changes that you want to do that are not related to the set but just adjustments. So the problem is you could remove unranked cards, but it's crazy to hold on that. And also, how do you want to rank a card that nobody has ever played? You need empirical data. You can take it from other formats and games, and you can take it from theoretical analysis, because we all know how to read dramatic cards, but sometimes it's not enough. Most of the time it's not enough. It gives you a good idea, but you still want to see who plays that and how long they play it. So yeah, that is also a danger. Did I forget some questions as well? So can you explain the new? I inside the new point system. Links to the site, you got it too. The anti cards, we have answered that question ahead. The changes are live, and of course, if you see some strange things, translations on the website, if you see some bugs, like you pasted a list, just send the list to me, say I pasted that following the calculator instructions, and it gives me weird results. Maybe the translation is not correct, maybe there's a typo in the code, maybe you don't understand how it works. The first thing we're gonna add in the next days, week, or else is, I know about that, we want to add something that when you type the card name, it gives you how many points they are added. And also we want to add a page where you choose your format and announcement, and it shows you the whole points simplified, like card points and nothing for the cards that are not worth any points. Or maybe a search engine with all the cards of Magic, confirming that it's worth 0 for most of them. That's something we need to add. We haven't yet thought about how it should be included, but we know it's going to be included. Rules that are not correct. The website, the main website, is to be updated. Like we need to finish writing the rules, but nobody really cares about the comprehensive rules on day 1, so they're just here because they needed to be here. We need the recurring questions that are covered in the rules, but you guys still get to answer, your friends, to me, or everyone else, like the questions that you like, what about that? And it's not clear enough. So first of all, maybe we need to update the media, and second, even if the media are correct, sometimes you will need like a correct explanation. Now, we used to have a Q&A on an FAQ on the old website. Maybe we need that on the new website as well. Also, when the idea of AeonShift is I can play all cards, are they going to be wish cards playable? That is a good question. I don't think so. So that is only for commander variants, like commander CDH in the future, or whatever commander AeonShift custom format you want, or dual commander. That is not going to change. because it doesn't do anything. And the main reason for that is the following. Maybe you lost that. It's a very theoretical magic question that people have been asked years ago. When you play, there are decks and there are deck lists. When you play a game, there are zones in the game, and then there is whatever is not in the game. It is referred as a sentence that means outside the game in the rules. And outside the game means whatever is in your binder and your collection when you're playing casually. And when you're on a tournament, it means whatever is listed on a deck list that was provided and checkable, deck checkable, but that is not currently part of the game. There is one subdivision of that is called the sideboard, but the sideboard doesn't cover everything that is outside the game. For instance, you have your attraction, contraption, or sticker decks. They're not part of the game. They're not supposed to be in any zone. They are a second deck that you have next to you. They are part of your game when the game starts, but they're also part of your list. So some things are really weird, but they're never part of a sideboard. So there's a difference with that. When playing Dual Commander, we are following the base construction rules for Commander, and those state that there is only one deck zone that is called the main deck. And after a couple years, and since Commander took over, we went from listing the commanders in the sideboard, which was wrong because there's never been a sideboard in Commander, to a zone that is a decklist zone that is called Commanders. And when you start playing, these zones become library, and the second becomes command zone. So you could also decklist as command zone and library, that's also correct, but this is different. So outside the game doesn't work, but I can give you a hint. When you are using Sherazade, there is an outside the game. When you are using Khan Liberated, there is an outside the game. So technically the answer has always been yes. Because when you are in a sub-game or a new game, it's different, but a sub-game works for that. When you are in a sub-game, everything that is the main game is outside the game for the sub-game, which means you can grab temporarily something, even on the stack with some specific wishes, that is on the stack from the main game, remove it from the main game and bring it back to the sub-game. That requires a couple of really weird cards, but you can do so. So yeah. So for that, some people invented a wish board, which is something that is not a sideboard because you don't change the cards from side to side. And we had the commander swap rules that allow you to swap commanders as eligible colors commanders without threatening your color identity, without changing the legality of your deck, like eligible as commanders. And you could swap them from game to game. And that is the only thing we could do. So the wishes, first of all, there are not that many of them, but now we have the lessons. So lessons could be a sideboard as well. Will still not work because that doesn't change. The base rule, like we said, this is part of the rules that don't change. Okay? So, yeah. How can tournament organizers prevent cheating by players swapping cards between rounds? Like increasing the points in the deck. Same thing happens in GP and bigger limited events with deck checks every round, with pain to deal with. So that is a very common question that means that probably the people asking that are not judges. If you're a judge and you are in a tournament, usually you don't have too many people. You just have the correct number of judges, and very often you lack some people. So deck checks, not all tournaments have deck checks because sometimes judges are crazy called by everyone all at once. They have no time to do that. Sometimes people are okay with the rules, they don't call the judges, and they have a time to deck checks. All that after the end of rounds, at the beginning of rounds, giving extra time or stuff. And second, a deck check is not what you think. A deck check is not a judge looking at all the cards, whether they're authentic, whether they're correctly played, correctly sleeved and stuff. They looked at the sleeves, Are they correct? Are you cheating? Are they marked? Because it's not about the cards only. They look at where your sideboard is. You have to provide separate things. They look at if you put the sideboard back in the sideboard and main deck back in the main deck. They look at a lot of things, and usually they browse the cards one by one, but be afraid. But sometimes counting the number of copies is hard. You have to put the cards very fast on the table. You have to compare that to the list. And I will tell you, unfortunately, not every judge is able to perfectly go through a deck check. Some of them just never see that the deck is wrong. Then there comes two different stuff. The first one, like I said in the IPG, is there is a difference between deck list error and deck error. Deck list error means before the tournament, after the start of the tournament, over the course of the tournament, when the tournament starts, or even sometimes after the tournament, your list is illegal. And that is already the case with Magic. This is already covered by the IPG. You should replace the cards, or you should raise, it's called like that, upgrade the infraction depending on what's happening. Changing the deck list usually doesn't happen multiple times in the tournament, except if you swap them, but usually the deck list is conserved by the judges, so they cannot be altered, apart from trying to get the deck list when the judges go to the toilet or something, but they usually hide the deck list. So first of all, we recommend using digital deck list only. That will save a lot of time. One, because it's impossible to cheat once the people have the deck list, digital version. And second, you just paste them in a calculator as a TO, and it takes you 0.5 seconds to get the results. So you can warn the people ahead of time, this is legal or not. And imagine you don't want to do that, you accept registrations until the last second, the tournament starts, everyone is sitting at table, they're playing, you got enough judges, your scorekeeper or someone is just not really busy, they can take all the lists and check them one by one in a second, and they can already deceive which ones are good or not. Having a calculator to do that is actually faster and better than Magic the other way around. Now the question is, usually it's all about remembering from memory the cards that are banned or not, having the official website on the site on a mobile phone or something to just check that you're not being wronged, and then you would apply sanctions. Now comes the problem. When you have points, you have to determine which cards are good or not. And we provide that in the IPG with a limit on the number of cards, the limit on the number of points, and some people might be tempted to cheat, but it's all on them because you will know that your deck will be downgraded. And also we recommend at some point letting the people play, fix their deck. We also know that with judges, when an infraction is repeated multiple times, then it should be considered as purposely cheating, upgrading to, warning, game loss, match loss, and even sometimes disqualification. So it's at your own risk. It's just like it was. You have the list, you have the points, you check the points. If it's not going well, then you have problems. For deck list problem, it's usually something you haven't noticed before the tournament starts, like the deck was provided as not legal. So what you can do is you can put some basic lands as a judge and give warning to the person or not. If the sideboard is wrong, you can just note it, it's fine, depending on the infraction procedure guide you're following and the level of rules, and at some point it becomes dangerous for the players. So it's up to you to be cheating or not. Then comes the question of resolving that. You should be removing the cards, but you need to remove the cards so that the deck remains in check. For that, what we recommend is there is a limitation on the number of cards or points, and you should upgrade it. Otherwise, you should just ask the players to fix the deck live, because you have the points, you have the cards. So if they tell you, I'm removing this one, this one, this one, and you give them basic lands of the good colors from their color identity, it is fixed. And it's already what's happening in your commander at the moment. If you play some cards that are not legal, that's what a head judge will do. Or random judge will do. They will see that your list is invalid, you will be inserted the correct penalty, and they need to change your deck list. And there's a second thing which is different. The deck list is correct, but the deck does not match the deck list. In other words, someone is relying on changing the cards between the rounds while having provided a correct deck list. That is a different, it's called a deck problem, And that means what you're playing is maybe different from the deck list. And if you're accumulating both of these, good luck convincing the judges that you're not cheating, because you are, clearly. So it cannot be a loss. And of course, the TOs, you will be able to use previous announcements and check your decks against previous announcements and points list. So the calculator right now is able to go back in time and you say, I want, let's pretend we're in June. We have 2 more announcement points updates that have been released. And you want to check if your deck was legal when the people registered and the registration was just before the announcement. And you're like, by the way, guys, decks have to be legal using the May announcement for the June tournament because the next one is going to be too close to the tournament dates. Well, you got to do that. You take the calculator, select the announcement, May 1, and you specify to your players in bold, please use the May point list because the new one will not be able to be applied at your own risks. So you tell the people the format you play, the value, the p-value, the monetary constraints, proxies and stuff. You get to tell everyone what you play with, but it's already the same, right? If today you're playing Dual Commander, you're telling people you are playing the format named Dual Commander with all its rules, the ban list, restricted list, the fact that you are allowing proxies or not, you already have to do that. If you're not playing proxies and nobody plays proxies around you, of course it's not a problem to you, but maybe, just like around me right now, half the tournaments are with proxies, so you have to tell that. Authorized or not, because clearly you don't want to be with a proxy on the tournament that does not allow them. Your judge might not like it. So this is not creating a lot of problems more. This is just creating a range in illegality, because right now you can deck check a deck, which deck is correctly matching the deck list, but the deck list is illegal, and the illegality of the deck list does not reside in one card in particular. That is just a novelty. We tell in the IPG how to fix that, and we rank the possible infractions according to that. In short, there is a slight margin of tolerance that judges should be like, all right, you did not intend to do that, probably, but it will be fixed at your own risk, and you have a very, very short time to fix your deck list, remove all your points, and you don't want to be sweating on a tournament, choosing which card to remove from your list, strategically, like building all over again to make your deck legal, and be like, yeah, I'm fine. So yeah, it appears to be much more of a nightmare. If you have been a judge already, you know it's not really. And also, if you have the calculator at disposal, the integrity of the list is faster because you paste the data in the calculator, faster than a paper list where you have to check that the cards match the deck list. It's just actually faster for some case, and it's slightly slower for another case. And resolving infractions is going to take some memorization, but all the judges can do that right now. They know how to fix that. With the Wizards of the Coast infraction procedure guide, they have everything that they want to. All right. I think I went through all your questions. I think I have more questions on Discord. All right. Let me just check that. So the website being not perfectly easy to use, yes, we know about that. We're gonna change how it works. There's no universal way of making that works. So yeah, we know about that. Yes, your absolutely total staple deck are worth a lot of points. It's normal. The problem is not how much of a downgrade you take, it's how much of an upgrade and unlimited dead end we had reached before that. That being said, if you change the cards that you wanted to play for that and you just take different cards, it's pretty easy to rework the decks you want to play and to keep your commander naturally. And also remember, some commanders also alter downwards your points. So if you're choosing them, you're already choosing something that is overpowered in commander. And the purpose is set it back to something more equally paired or pairable with a weaker commander. Not that they should be blindly considered the same, but you should have to choose between one or the other. So yeah. Some of the decks are getting close to the limit. Yes, that is the hardest thing with points. What you would call cheap combination decks, like every deck is more or less a combo deck right now in Duel Commander because the affinities are pushed to the max, except with the soup decks. But Lumra, Bell of the Woods, Light Pose, Emperor's Voice, Tifa Lockhart, Lear, all those decks, very often monocolor decks, but not only, have a problem. First of all, they're monocolored, so the mana base doesn't cost much. Second, they use heavily powerful combos, so the commanders are not that good within themselves. And to be good, they need to include bad cards, which by definition is what you would call a combo deck. A combination deck is a deck that says, I'm gonna start winning faster and more easily than the decks that just play the best creatures, the best good stuff. I'm not gonna play the good stuff. I'm gonna play some super bad stuff that work incredibly well, but that does not work at all in most of the situations. So I'm gonna change something that is less resilient, but more spikeful. And because of that, you play a lot of cards that are completely under the radar. Look at the Light Pose deck. Look at a Lumra deck. Most of the cards will never ever see any play. Some of them might be recurring and visible through lots of similar decks like Lumra, Azusa, Tifa. You will see the same cards in, like, maybe they will take 1 or 2 points each and this is sufficient. But sometimes you gotta admit, maybe the commander is exceptionally gonna get some points. I'm pretty sure if you look at the points right now, you're gonna realize Light Pose is worth as many points as, I don't remember, a Mox or a Black Lotus or something like that. And clearly, when you think of these cards, you like, those cards are completely unequal in power, right? Yes, they are. And this is why you remember my slide. Number one, the points do not reflect the raw power. And second, the points do not reflect the raw power of the card. So that is why it's hard to balance. And this time, it's maybe entirely balanced on the commander points, which is why it appears to be weirder. So yeah. What else was the question? Yeah, it's a completely new way of thinking. We knew about that. I mean, you were probably told about that, right? How many times in your life have you been building decks conditionally? Never, probably, because you always were used to ban lists, so you know what was going to be played. And also, this is a new complete game and format, so there is no metagame right now. I mean, you know more or less the metagame of other Magic formats, but you cannot apply it immediately because it's point ranked, and you're like, oh, my deck is worth 200 points too much. That's why it's doubly complex for the mind. What we have found out is that after a couple hours, it becomes just more natural. Not gonna lie, the first time I tried it myself, I was like, whoa, this is kind of hard to build. And surprisingly, after one day, I already knew a couple points, I already had an idea of all the cards that were more or less busted, because you can remember that many cards actually. Not the points, it's too hard to remember, but you more or less know which cards are going to be played, and then you realize, wait, I know the cards that have points. This is the card that we see all the time played. And your reflex is going to be the opposite. Like, I'm not going to include these guys. It's probably worth points. You try and like, yeah, it's worth 6 points. I knew it was not 0. And that's how the mechanic works. It's a brand new game. So how long did it take you to learn how to play to Magic? And second, do you really think right now you know how to play Magic? That you will not make mistakes? Not by the lack of attention, but truly ruling the games correctly. You know all the rules, you can play all the rules without making any mistakes. Like some corner case, like enchanting Magus of the Moon with some blanking enchantment that prevents their abilities, or playing opalescence, humility. What is what? All of these cards, all of these corner case, you think you know all of them, and then you realize Magic is heck of a super complicated game. So how long did it take for you to be at the level you are today with building? Kind of a lot of time, right? You remember all these decks you've been building that were complete crap. Well, you just have to accept that you're going back to school again. Except you have the power of what you have learned in the past. So you're not really starting at zero. You're not ground zero, right? I'm gonna look at the last one or two questions, and then I'm gonna be closing this. You guys are crazy. Yeah, you are. Some of you already tried to download the list and look at what's gonna be played. Some of you already testing with spreadsheets all your decks and making stats on your decks. You're crazy. Yeah, some people don't even know how to count to 20. I know. We know there is a minimal complexity that we have to go through, because the complexity of what Magic is going through, when I told you the white background slides a couple hours ago, it's too complex. It's too complex. There is no simple way, and as you have seen so far, a banned list is not a good solution. It works, but every time you ban a card, people get crazy. And also they get crazy because they have to rework part of the decks. Sometimes it's the commanders of the whole deck. They still get the cards because we all play the same staple, so the cards are not thrown to the garbage. By the way, this argument never worked with us. But it's still something we got to take into account. And also people just put a lot of money getting all the cards from the post office, from the marketplaces, and finally they build the decks because they knew it was going to be right, and everyone else also knew it was going to be right, and your deck is just banned. So there's a trauma, and the people really get angry because of the banned and restricted system. So you cannot have competition, active competition, prizes, tournaments, things that should be won, and have a banned and restricted system. Either you go towards marketing and you don't regulate anything, or you go back in time, you regulate everything, you favor competition, you foster competition, but then you're going to have to be used to changing your decks very often. Because yes, the people around you are building too. That might come to a surprise, but the whole world is building now. Around 100,000 of players are playing Dual Commander at the moment, so you're not the only one. You have a good idea, some cards you think is unknown or unchecked or crazy, forgotten. You're not the only one. Someone else has already found the corner case for this card use as well. So the problem is you cannot have something that adapts to the new crazy stuff that Wizards prints, to the pace at which they print, to the pace at which we just forget the cards, to maintaining the prices, not traumatizing the players with how much they need to invest on the deck and the cards to be able to keep up. And actually, this is getting them more and more money. So at least the proxy thing is solving everything for that. It's something you also gotta get used to. More than the points list, the proxy is something you gotta get used to, because you're not gonna consider the cards the same way you used to. Yeah, so that is one of the main changes. No, the name change. It's just AeonShift Dual Commander, and it's going to be AeonShift as a prefix for every format, and then it's going to be the name of the format. If it's not a style name, it will be AeonShift Custom, and otherwise it will be something. AeonShift Eternal, AeonShift CEDH, AeonShift or Commander maybe, AeonShift Dual Commander, AeonShift Eternal, AeonShift Modern, AeonShift Standard, if you want that to happen one day. Yeah. So yes. So like I said, yeah, there's a CSV download for the points if you really want to look at all the points. We're gonna add a table on the website that allows you to. I just already said that allows you to get all the points. Yeah, you might be not really surprised. What the hell, bro? What else? All right, I think I'll run through all the questions here. Oh, right, you have one more question on Twitch. I already answered the question about Moxfield Architect. First of all, with the last events, I don't know how to communicate with these people. I hope they are fine. I know they are good guys. I know the developers of them sites. I don't think they know me, but I know them. I think I'm still a supporter of Moxfield. I think I'm tier 1 subscriber on their Patreon. Yeah. The difference for them, I'm a developer myself, is it's going to be more complicated to integrate AeonShift than it is to integrate anything else. So even though we have source code, the source code we propose is just to make a website that is the same. You get the point list, you import it, and you can mirror the main website. But we don't have something that is generically included into every piece of code in every language when you just get, oh, it's a calculation and that works. Because you need a website for that. You need database, you need the point list, you need some source of truth. And by the way, for advanced developers, maybe you don't know it, the website has a URL we will give. I don't think it's a menu because it's not really worth to anyone. There is an API. You type /API and you have how to say so an open API endpoints to get the announcements and the points. So other websites can plug on the main websites for data that stores the data. So they only have to do the calculations. But the calculation relies on models, and the models can change with the rules. Like so far, we are pretty good with the modulations. But what if we change the modulations? Our code handles that really easily. Anyone else's code will have to work on that. So Moxfield is crazy good because they integrate a super huge number of game and formats. I think they integrate over 40 different formats, but they will need people to ask them to do so. So if nobody contacts them, they will not. And maybe if they see by themselves that people are playing AeonShift, they will be interested in that, but not gonna lie, this is gonna be some work on their side. So yeah. And before you ask any question, this is integrable into any single part of the world. You can integrate AeonShift into Moxfield, into Architect, into Magic Arena, into Magic Online. There is no problem with that. So everyone who tells you otherwise is probably unaware of what they're talking about. So yeah, I would love to get in touch with them. I would love to. Yeah. If this is a whole new type of magic, why is this built of the existing dual commander framework and not something else? I don't know what you mean with framework, but like I said, the purpose is not to change all the habits of everyone else. And let's be blunt, we still want to play dual commander, so we're gonna keep the rules. Yeah, it's AeonShift dual commander, so it's dual commander. We just re-specify the rules in case something else changes on the other side. And yeah, that's how we display. And also remember, there's not that much difference between dual commander and commander. It's like life points, and commander swap and partner freeze. I think it's all of it actually. So, and the number of people sitting at the table, that doesn't change how you build the decks. It's just the same rules for building, except you just change the cards inside your builds, because being free for all 4 players at the table is different for 2 in a duel. So yeah. Why would AeonShift Highlander be different to Canadian Highlander? From what I remember, Canadian Highlander was one of the 2 inspirations for us. Australian Highlander as well. You got 7-point Highlander and 10-point Highlander. Canadian Highlander is great. I believe, by the way, I didn't mention it, but Dual Commander, of course, and Canadian Highlander are really on the rise and becoming more and more popular. and we do appreciate what they do. Of course, having 10 points means ranking less cards, because you can have a card between 0 and 1 point. So that's the problem with Canadian Highlander. It has to be extremely overpowered, and of course, it doesn't have a command zone, from what I remember. So, yeah. Why not make a 60 card singleton variant? I feel like shuffling her is exhausting at time. So first of all, shuffling is going to be reduced because tutors and fetch lands, not all of them, like Prismatic Vista is not concerned, Evolving Wilds is not concerned, Fabled Passage is not concerned, but most of the most common fetch lands and tutoring effect, like Search for Library 4, are ranked. So you will search statistically less than you used to, but still. And 60 card singleton variants, as soon as we release all the points, these will be unlocked in the customize your format dropdown, where you have a lot of options. You don't need to use them right now because they're useless, but we will make these options unlocked one by one. So yes, 60 card singleton variant, which means 60 card Highlander is possible. 60 card Highlander with a commander is possible. And I think that answers your question. And that's a niche that is not very solved in competitive formats, except for 7-point Australian. Yes, so like I said, we considered that. I mean, we do consider that heavily. That will be available one day, and the good news is there is a difference between playing 100 cards and 60, but it's not that much of a difference, even with a sideboard, than playing with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 copies of a card, you know? So this might require fine-tuning, and if we have a population that happens to be playing that, there will be regulations and balance for that as well. And start format is a format that has a name, that doesn't have a completely generated name, because that's how you should, at least for basic rules, communicate. But when you're playing Dual Commander, you're playing 2 players game, 100 cards per deck, no sideboard, with command zones, singleton, and you're playing with the eternal timeline. That is the definition of Dual Commander. That is long. When you say Dual Commander, everyone understands that it's that without even thinking about that. If I tell you right now, Eternal is vintage with 4 copies for everything but points, you're like, I understand what Eternal is. Same thing for Modern. Modern is really easy. If I tell you AeonShift Modern, you're like, is it Modern played with points like AeonShift? Great, you got it. But if I tell you it's 4 copies, 2 players, 60 card plus sideboard, Modern timeline, you're like, oh, it's longer to say, right? It's boring. But Modern is a start format. All right. The we behind me was answered maybe when I suppose you were not here a couple of slides ago. There's a team. Yes, there's a team. They're about something between this and this number of people. No, you don't get to know who they are because of the last events from the past, which I don't want to happen ever again. So they're free to tell that they're on the team, but I would mostly recommend that you don't try to reach out for them and find who they're. They just want to be at peace, and also that prevents us from having, you know, that official statements on who's on the team, who's on the board or not. So the team right now is me, and that's all that you need to. All right, guys. I mean, I think I understood and answered all of your questions. I didn't think you would have so many questions. It's almost midnight, which is going to be a super long stream. I think I'm going to end on this part. I mean, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this. You don't get to believe in everything right now. It might take some time. It might take some minutes, hours, days, maybe years. I don't know how long I'm ready to tank something that would not take off. I'm going to try to do my best. We have lots of experience. I mean, I've been driving Dual Commander for 11 years, so it's not going to be a shame to me. The circumstances when we built that were truly different, and not gonna lie, for personal reasons that I'm not gonna disclose, but the last months have been challenging. I had personal problems. Problems also you guys might have seen publicly related to magic, but that's nothing. Yeah, everything was kind of borderline for me. So I'm still alive, I'm fine. I'm not in a bad mood, I'm not willing to throw everything else, but yeah, I got lots of stuff to handle on my side personally. So yeah. And also this time we were just like also acting against the wind of lots of people who didn't want us to succeed. So remember, this is a beta test. It's usable, not perfect. We're gonna improve everything. We need support right now. So the next part is within your hands. And also there is a possibility that we have done everything wrong, but the tools allow us to do everything right. So yeah, and remember, you should not be willing to lust for power, for just playing the most broken cards, because it's always the same psychological problem. You are happy to be driving at 200 miles per hour or kilometers per hour. You are happy to hold a chainsaw or a firearm, but everyone's around you is not happy when you do so. And that's the same when you cast devastating plays and you break your opponent. It's cool for you, not cool for them. And if it's on a tournament with no rules, then I just need to win, then maybe the next game is gonna be the same on you. So what I know is the more you give people powerful tools, the more the better people win. So if you get a chance for everyone to play, to be included in a game, to not lose and waste all their money, that is gonna be helping as well. So yeah. It's still our turn to do what we want to fix the things. We got lots of work. I think, have been doing a lot of work. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna push a lot of updates in the days to come on the code, on the website, and everything else. We're gonna work on the balancing again. Yeah, so I could. The problem is, if I thank the team, I'm gonna disclose who they are, but I want to thank the 3 original people who had this idea. Believe it or not, they are not me. I was number 4. I have brought some ideas, but if you know who I'm talking about, you got the names of the people. And believe it or not, we started working on that in April 2024 for the first time. And it was paused, and we had to undergo the weird events that happened since then. And you guys have seen nothing of what happened truly from the behind the scenes. But it was kind of a pain in the ass to wait for all this time. And when I saw the unfolding on the events after October, November, I was like, why not do that? Why not try at least, so we at least get to check if we were right or not on the base, on the principle. So yeah, thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna go back to sleep because I gotta wake up tomorrow morning. I'm gonna let everything rest for some days. I'm gonna swear I'm gonna try to reach out to you on Discord mostly. I have thousands of things to do. The website is not fully written. The support, the social media are not set. Lots of things that I still have to do, and we still have to do because I'm not the only one. But I get to be in charge of that. And you can thank the team. I know you don't know who they are, but they're watching. You can be sure they're watching. So you can thank the team, by the way, and we'll see how things unfold in the next days. I think I will do a new questions and answer sessions, but right now it's a whole new shock for everyone. So you need to try the system. You need to build and crack the system, find the flows, and if it works, it might work. As for me, I think I got some friends in my hometown right now where I live who said, you know what, we're gonna build again. I asked them if they could build, and they are building. And I might have to take my good old decks and get ready to play the game again on paper. It's been a long time, so yeah. Thank you very much for being nice people in the chat. I'm not sure what you said in Czech. I will not check your Czech, but I'm sure by the moderation, the auto moderation of Twitch said it was fine. So, except for one of you, sorry. So I hope it will be fine, and I hope we get to create something new with that game. We'll be looking at everything that you say, that you report. Keep in mind, this is a whole cooldown of the game while still allowing the huge bombs. So this is crazy. This is something crazy. And it means like some other bombs that we have just forgotten about are now playable again and can break the game all over again. And you have to understand how crazy it is to rank just 700 cards with 100 different possibilities for points, the modulations. We had hours, of course, hours, like days of working, and I want to thank the team for that because they held up to the end, and this is just not the end, this is the beginning. Alright, so thank you for staying here, thank you for being late. It is exactly midnight to me. We've been here for 3 hours, which is what I planned. I think I gave 3 hours in the Discord and Facebook events, maybe 2, I don't remember. I think I was intending to send in 3. So good night, welcome to AeonShift, and I hope we can do some great things together. And as you saw, we are nice people, we're working hard as hell because you got no idea how much work this is. This is a heck of a lot of work. I've been doing 5 a.m. to midday sleeps over the last days, and I need some sleep now. So goodbye, good night to you all, and let's talk in Discord. If you got some ideas, if you got some needs for Discord restructurations, I'll be doing that. I need to transfer on everything from the old website to the new one. The old website is still online. You will get to use it for legacy content, reading and stuff. And good night. And by the way, I think I found one of my oldest Magic t-shirts, so I still got this Planewalker symbol something here. So yeah, this is what I could find to be up to the challenge, you know, of having planes to chase to. So yeah, good night, guys. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your questions, for your attention, for staying up late. I see half of you are still in the chat, which is crazy. And just try it. Just break the game. Bye bye.